'Tis the season. We're off and rolling on a Thursday. Happiness is a choice. Thank you for choosing us, along with James Westling. I am Ari Temkin. James, how are you?
I'm great, man. Great job, Taman. That music just brings a smile to my face.
Perfect way to start a show on a
Yes.
Thursday, a week away from Christmas or so. I don't know. Sounds about right, right?
Exactly 1 week.
Yeah, a week away.
7 days.
Yeah, eight plus 7, hard math to do, but yeah, it's 15.
It'll get you.
We have a lot to get to today. The college football playoff starts tomorrow. We've got Kevin Young, the BYU men's basketball coach, joining us later on in the final hour of the show today. But first, James, I've got to ask. I never realized lumberjacks wear their shirts unbuttoned with joggers.
They do. I do what I want. This is my holiday flannel. This is my Christmas flannel. It's got some red, a little bit of green.
Oh, it's a
sprinkled
Christmas
in.
flannel, all right.
Yeah, so if the show runs long today, I'll be out back chopping wood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to close the shirt and then the joggers also. That's quite the fit.
No, it's just like business casual.
You're dressed today like Garth from Wayne's World.
You literally just showed me a picture, and I have no rebuttal.
I mean, down to the black rim glasses.
The only thing I'm missing is a very graphic tee.
And long hair.
That's it. And a little bit longer hair. But we can fix that easy
You
peasy.
think you can grow your hair out?
I'm sure I'm capable of it, yes.
Well, I don't know.
What do you mean do you think I could grow my hair out? Yeah, I'm pretty
Well, you're
confident.
older,
I don't think it just stops growing if I refuse to get a haircut. Over time, yes.
Well, I don't know if you've noticed some people go bald. I'm not saying you're going bald, but I don't know if there's like an intermediate step.
Listen, man, I wanted to dress like Tim Allen today, little home improvement vibes. This show says I do radio and own a chainsaw, and that is the vibe that I'm going for today.
What I need to know is, do you recognize that those buttons do, in fact, clasp?
Yeah, I'm aware. You have a real problem with the open shirt.
I
It's
do.
really bothering you. If I clasp it, if I button it, then I feel all constricted in my space.
I wear shirts.
If it's date night, I will button it. But here in this setting, I want to be relaxed and be able to explore the space. And if I'm all buttoned up, I can't do it.
That's James Westling. I am Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by our friends at Modelo. And, of course, you can find us, listen to us on TuneIn, the TuneIn app, and streaming on Big 12 Studios.
Also, I cleared my very own. I did this myself. I cleared my check engine light yesterday, so I'm no longer taking questions because I did that myself.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, I went to AutoZone and they said, we can't do anything to your vehicle, check engine light-esque, but here's the tool if you want to use it. And I said, I will use
They
it.
said, sir, this is a McDonald's.
I said, I will use that tool. And I went out there and I figured it out.
So you went to an AutoZone thinking that they would
Clear
fix
my... No. I'd already fixed the issue.
Got it.
But
Got it.
after extensive research, come to find out your check engine light on Volkswagens apparently just doesn't just go off on its own. So you have to actually clear it. And
Well, you also have to check the engine.
well, I've done that.
Got
I've
it.
done that.
Okay.
That part has been handled. It was just the light. So, long story short, we are one step closer to me becoming an official legal resident
Was that
of the state of
that?
Texas.
That feels like one of the boxes that wasn't. I didn't even know that was a box that needed to be checked.
Yeah, me neither until the other day, but it did, and it has been.
They got you jumping through quite a few hoops for this.
Yeah. I mean, there's like 18 steps, but we are one step closer.
There we go. All right, I love it.
Hoping to have an update post-Christmas.
Let me ask you something. So you've got you've got a bunch of kids, but two stepsons that you live with here in Dallas. Your other kids that live in Kansas, 3 of them. Mm-hmm. What percentage chance would you think? And I'm not trying to squash anybody's dreams here. What percentage chance do you think that your boys or your daughter?
Yeah.
You've got 5 kids involved here.
Yeah, 5 kids, blended family.
Could be, let's just say, high-level D1 athlete.
High-level D1 athlete.
Give me a percentage.
0.0. If there's a negative percentage, it's that. And that's not a knock on their athletic ability.
No.
They're all very fine athletes. My daughter plays volleyball and basketball. The boys are playing just about everything. They're doing baseball and basketball and football, and one of them's really into soccer. even some wrestling in the mix. So, I mean, we run the gamut when it comes to potential opportunities. With that said, I think I'm probably in the minority that I'm very realistic in terms of how far they can actually go in terms of an athletic scholarship or becoming a professional athlete.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you are very much in the minority by having some sense of realism. I heard Big Cat on his podcast, Part of My Take, talking about this study that was done, and I had to look it up for myself just to see. And yeah, in a survey of 785 American parents, 34% thought it was somewhat or very likely that their child would become a small college athlete. Okay, it's reasonable. Small college athlete. I mean, if you want to be a JUCO or a D2 or D3 or even a NAIA athlete, like if you want to play, you can find a school that will have you play, right? 27% thought it was likely they would become a college scholarship athlete. So that's D1. 27% seems like a ridiculous number. And then 17% out of the 785 American parents that were surveyed thought it was somewhat or very likely that they would become a professional or Olympic athlete. 17%. Now, as you read the study further, the older the child gets, the more that percentage goes down. So the lower the expectations that parents had for future athlete success. It's funny because if I didn't have kids, this would shock me. But since I have kids, this doesn't shock me at all.
Exactly. Like the average parent, I think, is realistic, but there is a large percentage, and we see it each and every weekend, of the overinvested parent that is really this study, I think, in this article boils down to the percentage of parents that are overinvested, shaping youth sports pressure, shaping burnout, also shaping entitlement, which are all three of those things I've seen at youth sporting events and within youth ages 7 to 10 to 15. And, once a kid says, I'm an athlete, like expectations seem to spike. The thing between the 17% and the 34% to me, like the 34% I can get on board with. That's a small college athlete.
Right.
If you play at a competitive level your entire life, chances are you can find a school that will take you on. You would be paying for your school. You wouldn't be a scholarship athlete, but you could play sports in college if that's really what you want to do. But there's only a 17% gap between that parent and the parent that thinks their child will become a professional or Olympic athlete. Like, that's not that big of a gap. That's wild to me.
Well, and like, you know what it says to me more than anything is I think, like, a lot of parents completely and utterly underestimate how good pro and Olympic athletes are. I mean, I'd imagine most parents underestimate how good high-level college athletes are. I mean, look, I get it. When kids are younger and maybe they're like leaps and bounds better than many other kids are playing with. I mean, I could see how parents can see that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know what's the fix to that, because we live in a world now where it's the opposite is true, where there's like so many travel leagues and situations in which, those coaches are feeding the beast, right? Oh, they've got to keep training and getting better. And, meanwhile, you hear about these like insane athletes that, oh yeah, that guy just started playing basketball a few years ago and now he's like a high-level D1 athlete and going to get drafted.
Right.
And yet parents are like, well, the kid needs to work really hard and put in the time and get really good coaching. And I'm not saying that that's not important and not true, but it's just misguided. And ultimately what I've seen in my kids being involved in youth sports is like there are so many great values that youth sports teach kids, but a lot of parents, I think, don't see the right reasons to do it. Mm-hmm. They see the end goal of that as the reason to do it, as opposed to, getting good experiences, learning about teamwork, fighting through adversity, right? Like most important components that sports will teach you.
1,000%. Being a good teammate, being a coachable athlete, being somebody that can get along with others from different backgrounds. It teaches those lessons. And, loving sports is great, but letting sports define or implying that sports should define a child's future is incredibly risky for so many reasons. And the biggest one that stands out to me is, it sets up a child for failure. And I think that there's two different paths you can take because we all experience failure. But if you put your child on this pedestal, when they experience that failure, they feel like a failure versus how can I learn from this? So, yeah, I was so confident that my children would not be professional athletes that instead of MBA, I went 529 account, tax savings investment account to pay for their college like the day they were born.
Yeah, that or, maybe if you want to, instead of paying all this extra money for coaching and, travel leagues and all that, you could also pay like for academic tutors because you're more likely to get an academic scholarship than you would be to get an athletic scholarship.
Well, and that's the other thing. Like youth sports have become so incredibly expensive that it is an investment from the family and from the parents. And you reach a point where it costs so much that you're invested in your child almost naturally, because I can see why parents fall into that trap, because they're like, man, I'm putting so much of my hard-earned dollars into my child
and time
to continue to play.
Driving out to these tournaments all across the
payoff?
country. I mean, I've seen it. I mean, my niece is a high-level softball player. She lives in Houston. They travel. My sister and my brother-in-law and her, they travel all around the country.
Yeah,
driving around the country to be in softball tournaments.
So you get to a point where the parents are thinking, what's the payoff? And the payoff doesn't eventually it's no longer learning to fight through adversity and being a great teammate.
Right.
It becomes, what's the payoff for my financial investment? A scholarship, right? Or being a professional athlete. So I think it's very difficult for parents to not feel that way. And there are so many reasons why.
By the way, only about 7% of high school athletes continue to play sports in college. And the NCAA estimates that only about 1.5% of NCAA football players get drafted into the NFL.
That feels high to me.
Yeah.
1.5% feels high.
NCAA athletes, basically, have already. So, I mean, it's basically, it's like the top 1% play college sports. And then the top 1% of that play professionally. And I think, like, most people don't recognize just how insane those numbers are. But that's what it is. Like, it's basically like, the top 1% of high school athletes will play high-level D1 sports, and then the top 1% of that will play professional athletics.
Crazy.
T-Chains, producer Taman?
Yeah, I mean, 60 let's look at the NBA and the NFL. 60 players in the NBA get drafted each year. 224 players get drafted in the NFL. I mean, the numbers aren't on your side. I mean, that's a very small number.
Right. It's the top 1%, the top 1%.
Right. It's like for a parent to think that their kid, I mean, it's great that they have that high confidence in their kid, but they could be setting them up for failure if they, go that route of thinking that you're going to be a top professional athlete.
Yeah, and I mean, I think
that'd be their thing.
I think again, like, I don't want to diminish the value of playing sports. The other thing that like is just insane to me that I notice in watching my son, who's 10, we have two sons that are both 10, play basketball, is like sometimes they'll play against kids, or even if there's kids on the same team that complain to refs during games. Like, you're 10, keep playing. If I were a ref, I would throw kids out if a 10-year-old complained to me.
Yeah,
like that's insane. There was a game. The final was like 12-7. The final score of the game was 12-7. Okay, not a bunch of D1 athletes playing out there, right? Like, they're in it for the right reasons if they're playing in a 12-7 first or fourth grade basketball game, okay? Like, one of the kids in the opposing team was complaining to the official about a call, and it's like, you're looking up at the parents. Like, what are you doing? Yeah. Like, you're the one yelling at your TV at refs, setting the example to your kids that's okay.
Right. And I have no statistical data to support this claim, but to me, the reality is it's worse here in our area, which is the Dallas Metroplex, DFW area, because these youth athletes watched Luka in the playoffs and
You're
watched
saying
Luka.
complaining is worse here because of Luka.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because I mean Luka was a guy that that was one of the things he was known for is whether he's complaining or trying to get the next call, like he was always working on the officials each and every time down the floor. I don't think there's ever been a player in the modern era, or maybe ever historically, that worked on the officials as much as Luka in-game on the floor. Sure, guys complain, but I mean, with him, it was each and every time up and down the floor. And eventually it got to the point where he was just getting bruised and battered, and they didn't care. And, like, my 10-year-old, diehard Luka fan. Luka gets traded to the Lakers. We're a Lakers fan all of a sudden. And, like, I see some of the same things on the floor. I'm like, oh, where's he seen that? Probably on YouTube Shorts, right?
That's James Wesley. I'm Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We've got a lot to get to today, including previewing the college football playoff and how a survey of coaches across the country does not think very highly of Texas Tech. We'll get to that next. With James Amari, this is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Big 12 Radio. This is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo. And Modelo's full-time fan rules. This is good for Texas Tech fans as we head into the weekend and, of course, into next weekend. If you have a superstition and it works once, it's permanent. Modelo fan rules, fan rule number 75. If you have a superstition and it works once, it's permanent, which we all know is 100% accurate.
Yep. Wore my favorite T-shirt, wore my jersey. We won the game. Permanent superstition built in.
Yeah, and I know I've heard from high-level pro athletes that have won championships that talk about superstitions. So I don't know that if fans have specific superstitions they do, that it does not impact the actual outcome of games.
Totally.
Because athletes do it. So why would there be any difference there?
No difference. None.
There's here's the question I have for you, James. James Westling, Ari Temkin. Are we wrong about Texas Tech, or are they wrong about Texas Tech?
They are wrong about Texas Tech.
Okay, because when I say they, I mean the public perception that's been, lifting up the Big Ten and the SEC, and now apparently college coaches too, based on Bruce Feldman and a study that he conducted for The Athletic, College Football Playoff Coach Confidential. So Bruce Feldman from The Athletic, longtime college football reporter, sent out a survey to all of Division I programs and had coaches fill them out, and then took the results into account. And, yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that most coaches are pretty down on Texas Tech based on the results of the survey, including which team will win it all. 50% of the respondents said Georgia. Wow. 42% said Ohio State. 4% said Indiana. And another 4% said Oregon. So Texas Tech was not even responded to in this survey as a team that could win it all. In fact, based on this, it seems most believe that Oregon is going to beat Texas Tech in the quarterfinal in the Orange Bowl. And that most believe that the winner of the Georgia-Ohio State game will win the national championship.
Which is pretty wild. I mean, Georgia 50%, Ohio State 42%, and everybody else in the field 8% combined. Now, I do think that coaches like fans like us are more familiar with Georgia and Ohio State because they've been there. Georgia is seen as the cleanest team. Not necessarily the most explosive, but just the cleanest, has the most depth on the offensive and defensive lines. They're healthy, where last year in the college football playoff, they were not. They lost their quarterback right before the playoffs. And Ohio State, I think, gets the benefit of the doubt because of their defense and because of their health and the familiarity with Ohio State. And they won it last year. Like, I do think that plays a role. And when you look at the potential frauds in the field, Ole Miss at 29%, Texas Tech at 17%. Alabama at 17%. Well, Alabama has more losses than anybody else in the field, so that makes sense. But then Ole Miss and Texas Tech are the two teams that just simply have not been there. And with Lane Kiffin leaving Ole Miss, I think that adds to why they might not have a shot to go deep in the playoffs. Like, I don't think these guys are breaking down film as much as we think, except for the opponent that they're going to be playing next.
Yeah, that's what it says to me too. And I mean, so yeah, you mentioned the next question: who do you think is the biggest fraud of the field? Ole Miss at 29%, who lost their head coach, and most of their staff, only to have their staff return, to coach in this game in the playoff. But of the top four seeds, Texas Tech is the only one listed here as the biggest fraud in the field. They are the biggest fraud, quote unquote, according to coaches surveyed of the top four seeds. 17%. One group of five head coach. Ole Miss, they've had so many distractions with Lane Kiffin leaving, and Oklahoma's probably their only good win this year. I think Alabama, this is from an SEC defensive coordinator. I think Alabama should have like 5 losses this year. They shouldn't be there this year. The Big 12 offensive coordinator says Texas Tech, their D-line is really phenomenal. They can hold their gaps, and they let those linebackers play freely, but their offense has had so many opportunities, and they really struggle in the red zone. Quarterback Barron Morton is talented, but he's played a ton and has some decision-making, some of his decision-making is pretty poor. I can read, I promise you.
You're really, really good at it.
I didn't say that. I said I can read.
You're capable of it.
Capable of it.
Very capable. Okay, so the breakdown of Texas Tech. Was there anything there from those coaches that isn't like surface level, right? When we think about Texas Tech, we know that they have a really elite defensive line and that they have a top 5 defense, maybe the best defense in all of college football. Check that box. That they're not very good in the red zone, that they're really good between the 20s. Well, that's very clear on paper. That's very surface level. And then that Baron Morton sometimes struggles with his decision-making. Well, that's been the knock on Baron Morton his entire career. So Texas Tech scaring you between the 20s and then forgetting how to score, like that's nothing new, right? There wasn't anything beyond the surface level stuff that caught my eye. Like I don't hear a coach saying, yeah, well, their receivers aren't very physical and we think we can jam them up. Or they've got a weak left guard and we think we can just nosedive that side of the offensive line. Like there isn't anything that really stood out to me that we haven't already talked about extensively, which tells me that like maybe these guys don't know as much about Texas Tech as they should for a team that has potential to make a deep run in the college football playoff.
Next question. Which team is the biggest sleeper in the field? Now, this is interesting, right? Because Texas Tech is listed here at 4%. Miami, Oregon, Oklahoma, Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas A&M. So again, out of all of the top 4 seeds, the only one that's considered a sleeper would be Texas Tech, the 3 seed. Right? They're the 3 seed? Yeah.
No, they're the 4.
4.
Yeah, they're the 4. They're the 4.
So
Oregon's the 5.
Yeah. So I mean, basically everybody that's considered a sleeper. So it's like, are they too good as a top 4 seed to be a sleeper? And that's why basically everybody else that's in the field has a percentage associated with them to be a sleeper? Or do you have maybe an SEC or a Big Ten coach or Big Ten coaches or SEC coaches that haven't watched a ton of Texas Tech that thinks, man, I don't know that anybody's realistically understanding how good Texas Tech is.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And the coaches that were polled that highlighted Texas Tech were Big 12 assistant coaches, right? Miami had the top, the most votes among potential sleepers at 21%. And then Oregon, because they play Texas Tech. Like this whole breakdown and reading through these quotes just further magnifies to me how little the nation knows about Texas Tech. Like the Big 12 championship game did record numbers. A lot of people watched it. And a lot of people saw Texas Tech just destroy a BYU team, especially in the second half. And I think that the narrative that is being built is that, well, BYU didn't belong. BYU isn't as good as we thought they were. Well, what about Texas Tech? Like maybe Texas Tech has a better rushing attack than people are giving them credit for. Maybe Baron Morton does have very capable receivers, and a ton of them when you talk about Terrence Carter at tight end and Coy Aiken and Caleb Douglas. Caleb Douglas was like a 5-star recruit. Like he was Florida's best receiver when they got him 3 years ago in the portal. He is an NFL frame. He has a tremendous catch radius. He's 6'5". So he just doesn't get the looks that some of these other guys get.
Well, and it's also important to note that like Texas Tech was so much more dominant than most teams they played this year. We didn't really see the full breadth of their offense. I mean, they basically could just run and run away with games because of their running game and their defense. Yep. Like they relied so heavily on Jacoby Williams and Cameron Dickey. That doesn't necessarily mean that they can be an effective, consistent downfield pass attack, but like they have one of the highest explosive play rates in the country.
Yeah.
But most people would not associate them with having an explosive offense.
Right. Because those explosive plays, you know, which are considered a run of 15 or more, a pass of 20, they weren't really explosive plays in that the ball's in the air for 40 or 50 yards. Like their checkdowns or the guys taking off, their runs between the tackles. And Texas Tech, like they were so much better than a lot of the teams on their schedule. They had games where offensively it looked like they were sleepwalking, but they were up by 40 at halftime, like Oklahoma State. West Virginia is another one that comes to mind. So I think for that reason, they don't necessarily get the credit that they deserve. The other thing that stood out to me was kind of the group of 5 reality check. Like almost 90% of these coaches are saying there's absolutely no chance that Tulane or James Madison hang in their opening round. Like they talk about the physicality and they reference the Tulane-Ole Miss game the first go around. And they're saying, Tulane gets beat by 20 plus. James Madison maybe gets beat by 40. That stood out to me too. The fact that just if one of those two teams hangs, or if somebody other than Georgia or Ohio State win the whole thing, it's a monumental upset this year in college football. Then we are talking about real college football parity.
Which team would you least like to play? Basically, 88% of the votes went to Georgia, Ohio State, or Indiana. Again, the top 3 seeds, so very highly of the top 3 seeds. And then how many teams actually have a legitimate shot at being champions? 3 teams, 38%. 4 teams, 21%. 6 teams, 13%. But, the majority are basically saying either 3 or 4 teams, and based on previous questions, the 4th team that most people would think would be Oregon. And, look, this is a long way to say, and then what's interesting is who's the best coach of the playoff. 4% said Joey McGuire. So he was listed as one of the best coaches. And yet some of the things that are being said about other teams in this field are not being said about Texas Tech, but probably could be said about Texas Tech. And so, it goes to show, number one, overall, big picture with this. Old habits die hard. The perception of the Big 12 and where it is will die hard this playoff, I think. And that's not even just held by people on TV or people that just cover the SEC and the Big Ten, but being said by coaches that are in those leagues too, that they really truly believe it. And this is a great opportunity for Texas Tech because, they're being completely underestimated. In fact, here's what Joey McGuire said when he was asked about this, about how underestimated Texas Tech is.
Yeah, I love that stuff. And this team is fed off of that stuff all year long, so we use it. Like The Athletic had an article that came out today with, I think there was 15 anonymous coaches, and the one of the statements were the frauds of the playoffs were number one, the highest percentage was Ole Miss, and number 2 was Texas Tech. And so I started practice with that, and I think it's good, we have some guys that feed off of that in a good way. I wouldn't say that if it was a team that, couldn't handle that, because there are teams that's really not what they feed off of. But, Lee Hunter feeds off of that stuff. We've got this little video. It starts off with, Dana White, talking about bet against me. I don't know if y'all have seen it. So there's a cut up of him and Goggins, and it ends when Denzel Washington. But our guys love that. We watch it. I start my PowerPoint off every Tuesday with that, so they can actually recite every word of it. So, to poking the bear with these guys are good.
It is very good. And he references that there are 2 different types of teams, and some teams can't handle that stuff because it shakes their confidence. And then with other teams, it makes them hungrier, poking the bear. That's what that does for Texas Tech. This team is going to play angry, which, to summarize their season, I would say they are a team that plays angry. They are out to prove that they belong. And I think that's what we'll see in the college football playoff. And coaches fearing the most, Georgia at 46%, Ohio State at 21%. Georgia, I can see, they just crushed Alabama in the SEC championship game. But why is Ohio State more fearful, or why are coaches more fearful of Ohio State than Indiana when Indiana just beat them in the Big Ten championship game? The reason is the name on the chest, the logo on the helmet, the stickers, everything about that program and that brand. So, the brand recognition, it's not just at a fan, media level. It also impacts the coaches. There's no reason why a coach should fear Ohio State more so than Indiana right now, when Indiana just proved, at least as of today, they're better than them.
Well, and there's always been this thing said about Kansas basketball where some teams just enter Allen Fieldhouse and the game's over. That's all they had to do is walk into the Fieldhouse. And I think the same is true for some of these programs that maybe have gone up against Ohio State or gone up against Georgia, where it's you've lost the moment you've entered the stadium against them.
Yeah.
You've lost the moment you see that team walk out of the field because of that, because of what you just said. That stuff happens. It does. You can get overwhelmed. You can get intimidated. That stuff absolutely happens. Teams become intimidated at the Horseshoe. And not just by the Horseshoe, but by the Ohio State jerseys. That's where brand does matter. But I don't think Texas Tech is going to be intimidated by Oregon or by Indiana or even by Ohio State or Georgia. I posted a video on my YouTube channel yesterday. Like, I've never felt more confident in Texas Tech getting to the national championship game than I feel after digging deeper into these teams. Like, there's no dominant force in college football like we've seen within the last 10, 15 years. And we know that because of how much more talent is dispersed. And yet people are acting like that's not the case. Yeah, Ohio State and Georgia have more 4 and 5 stars. There's no doubt about that. But the proof on the field is not at the same level that it was 5 to 10 years ago in this sport.
Mm-hmm.
But yet people are acting like it is.
Totally. And like, we talk about Baron Morton and his decision making, and his numbers aren't as gaudy as some of the other guys in the college football playoff. But you can make a case like Baron Morton might be the 3rd or 4th best quarterback in this field. And then you have an elite defense that's definitely a top 3 defense among the teams that are in this field. And I could see the brand stuff, really impacting a school or a team like James Madison. They're going on the road in a true road environment at Oregon. Like, that could mess with that type of team. But Miami's not going to be intimidated by playing Texas A&M. Tulane has already played Ole Miss. They're not going to be intimidated. And Texas Tech has played on the biggest stage already this season. Like, if they were a team that hadn't had any tough road games, didn't play in a conference championship, like, they have a bye. They're going to be able to sit back and watch all these teams dissect everything from the Oregon-James Madison game, get ready for that one, dissect everything from the Alabama-Oklahoma game, and really get to know these teams on another level to where they're not going to be intimidated. Like Joey McGuire said, they're going to be angry. That fuels them, the fact that everybody's counting them out, which I love.
Who's the best quarterback in the field?
Probably the guy that won the Heisman,
yeah.
Right? Mendoza. Like,
yeah.
It's hard to say he's not. But is he, like, he's not a Matt Leinart, Vince Young, like all the great quarterbacks. There's no Tim Tebow. Like, there's no guy in the college football playoff like last year. Same exact thing. Like, there's no guy that's going to just take over a game, make these elite NFL-level throws, and will his team to a victory.
Yeah, the best quarterback in the field, and maybe by far, just scored 13 points against an Ohio State defense that tracks on the level of Texas Tech.
Mm-hmm.
If we were to survey, like, best position groups, best offense or defense, like, the 2 best units in this field are Ohio State and Texas Tech's defense. Those are the elite of the elite. There's no other unit across the board that is elite of elite in any category as much as Ohio State and Texas Tech's defense. That's James Wesley. I'm Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Today, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios, and presented by Modelo. Our buddy Jason Shear from Wildcat Authority helps us check in on the #1 team in college basketball next. With James, I'm Ari. It's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios. Big 12 Radio. This is Big 12 Today, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. We are presented by Modelo, and we are pleased to be joined right now by Jason Scheer from Wildcat Authority. What's going on, Jason? How are you?
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you hopping on with us this morning. Let's talk about the number one basketball team in the country. First team ever to have 5 wins in their first 9 games against top 25 opponents. And, I mean, for me, Jason, the thing that stands out is just the style they play. It's bully ball. They're going to out-rebound you. They're going to beat you inside. And, I mean, they've got guys 1 through 5 that could score the interior. It's a fun style that's very much a contrast to modern college basketball. It was certainly on display against, a all 3-point shooting team like Alabama.
Yeah, it's a unique style for sure. And, especially when you look around college basketball and how many teams shoot threes. And Arizona could shoot the 3 ball. They shot it pretty well against Alabama. But I know Tommy Lloyd, the head coach, isn't afraid to play 2 bigs or to play a certain style. And it's very interesting, especially because they've beaten some really good teams. I think Florida, they only shot 4 threes the entire game. I mean, yeah. It's unheard of, but it's been really successful so far.
Jason, Evan Miyakawa has best rebounders by height, and he has a graph that shows the top rebounders in the country based off of each height listing. And, the percentage of rebounds that Arizona gets relative to how big they are, they're in a league of their own. So break that down for us and just how much that has led to all the success that they've had.
Yeah, Tobe Awaka, who comes off the bench for Arizona, is 6'7", and he has the number 1 offensive and defensive rebounding rate in the nation. And he's just a monster. He had 15 boards the other night. If they only play him 23, 25 minutes a game. If he ever played 35 minutes a game, he'd have a 20 rebounding game easily. And so he really changes everything with his ability to rebound, and then they rebound from every position. I mean, they're one of their leading rebounders the other night was their point guard. Jaden Bradley had 7 rebounds, and Mo Kribis rebounds the ball well, and they really get rebounding from every position. But I think when Awaka is on the court, it kind of changes everything because his ability to rebound is as good as I've seen Arizona have. It's almost a Dennis Rodman type because he's not a big scorer. He's not going to go out there and change the game offensively. He's going to defend, and he's going to rebound like a madman. And so far, no team has had an answer for his rebounding ability.
Is this sustainable, Jason? What potentially, what kind of pitfalls can this team eventually hit?
I was thinking about that. It's one of the popular subjects on the message board.
Right.
Right. They don't have a clear weakness because, you would say shooting, but they just don't shoot that many. And when they do shoot that many, like against Alabama, they matched Alabama's threes. They were 10 of 26 from 3, which is good enough to win. And, they shoot a good percentage. They just don't need to shoot that much. But I would say that's probably their weakness is that one night, if they're just ice cold shooting and another team is hot, maybe that's their downfall. But they've been so good defensively overall that it hasn't really come close to happening yet. They don't have there's a few teams that don't have a glaring weakness, and I think Arizona is one of them.
Yeah.
Does this Arizona team remind you of any of the past Arizona teams? This is the most talented Arizona team since when? Because with all the history there, all the deep NCAA tournament runs and championships, how does this team stack up to some of the all-time greats?
I think the closest is probably the 13-14 season. I thought Arizona was going to win a national championship that year, and then Brandon Ashley broke his foot later in the season, and it really hurt him. And had he stayed healthy, I felt that was the best team in the country. But this team could go, mano a mano every position with a lot of Arizona teams. It's been a while, and I think the key is how well-rounded they are. Because even going back then, there's really good players on this team, and there's obviously been really good players in Arizona, but there's been clear weaknesses that even when you go back to some of Sean Miller's teams that made the Elite Eight that were really talented, but you kind of knew that if they lost, they were going to lose because they went ice cold offensively. In this team, it doesn't feel that way. They've got depth. They've got guys off the bench that can score with Anthony Del Orso and Walker comes off the bench as a rebounder. So this is, in my opinion, probably the best Arizona team we've seen in a bit.
The stat always comes up, Jason, at the end of the season when the brackets are revealed, but it continues to sort of be glaring, and that is the stat that a team west of the Mississippi has not won a national championship since Arizona did it in '97. So, what do you attribute that to? Is it just completely random?
I think it's random, but to me, it's also when you look at resources and all that with basketball teams, like when it really comes down to it, it's Arizona, UCLA, and Gonzaga.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like those are the three West Coast teams that are ever going to have a chance to win a title. It's just the way it is. And then if UCLA struggles, now you narrow it down. And so and really that goes with any school. It just happens to be location and things like that. And, I'm not even sure which team would kind of jump in there. Like Texas Tech has had good teams, and Texas years ago was good, but it's just a matter of resources and all that. And when it comes down to it, there's going to be certain conferences that have more money and all that than the others. And Arizona is in a good position, and Gonzaga does well without football, but at the end of the day, a lot of it is just resources and things like that.
Is there a talent piece to this too? Because there's obviously a ton of talent in Arizona, in California. Are they leaving? Do you think that's part of this too?
I think also the introduction of prep schools has changed everything, because you take a look at some of the best players in, like, for instance, let's take Arizona. The best player in the state is a guy named Bruce Branch. Well, Bruce Branch, he was on Koa Pete's high school team. Bruce Branch transfers to Florida to go to prep school, right? And so now all of a sudden his recruitment is more difficult for Arizona or other teams had he stayed in Arizona. You look at California, and UCLA just right now isn't keeping the best players home when, let's just say 10 years ago, if you were a good player from California, you were going to UCLA or Arizona. It's more national now. And I think prep schools have a lot to do with it. Like Arizona was able to land Koa Pete, the best player in the state of Arizona. And Arizona is a team or a program where they generally land the best players in the state with ease. But Koa Pete's recruitment wasn't easy. And there's other guys, Cameron Holmes, they landed him best player in the state of Arizona, or one of them. Like, you have to be able to do that now, and it's become more difficult to do so because of the prep schools and the NIL and stuff like that.
Jason, where does Braden Burries rank among Big 12 freshmen? Like, we've talked about Koa Pete, and there are so many other freshmen in this league that have been electrifying. And it's like Burries maybe isn't getting the attention he deserves until now with these back-to-back performances.
Yeah, he got off to a slow start, and Arizona fans were kind of questioning how good he was and all that. And in his last, I'd say, 5 games, he's been unreal. And what he did against Alabama, and then he followed up. I know Abilene Christian is in Alabama, obviously, but what he did there, and all of a sudden he's on fire. But you look at the Big 12, and he may not even crack the top 5, right? Like Koa Pete, you have Peterson at Kansas when he's healthy, you have Debanza at BYU. Like, this freshman class in the Big 12 and nationally is as good as I've seen maybe ever, like in a long, long time. Like, it's just completely loaded. And so when Braden Burries is scoring like this, Arizona's really hard to beat. And what's interesting about Burries is, like, he's not an elite athlete. He's not going to beat you with his elite speed or athleticism, but he knows what he's doing. And when he gets going offensively, like, this is how he was in high school. When he gets going offensively, he's really, really difficult to stop.
All right, one football question for me. And obviously coming off the heels of a pretty successful season, the Holiday Bowl on January 2nd against SMU. What do you expect out of that? Any opt-outs? And then, what do you think this team could be a Big 12 favorite heading into the next season?
Yeah, I'm not sure on opt-outs yet. The one thing I'll say about this team, and the coaches have kind of merited, is these guys have been through a lot together.
Yeah.
Especially the senior. There's a senior group, and especially in the secondary, that they've been through a lot. And this is kind of their goodbye. And so I expect a large chunk of players to play because of the culture that Brendan's had. And you never know. I mean, maybe a guy like Genesis Smith is told, hey, you're going to be a high draft pick, and maybe has some thoughts about it. But the guys like Traden Stukes and Dalton Johnson, I would be surprised if they sat out. And Arizona loses a little bit. I think they're going to need to go to the portal and kind of strengthen some things. But, when you look at it, they returned Noah Fafita. They returned their core running backs. They returned a good amount of their defense. They got to replace guys, like I mentioned, replacing Stukes and Dalton Johnson on defense is not going to be easy. But if they can kind of close that gap in the portal, they have a shot to make a run in the Big 12 next year.
Yeah, well said. Jason Shearer, Wildcat Authority. Jason, appreciate your time this morning. Thanks so much. Take care.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Go check out the great work that Jason and his staff do at wildcatauthority.com. They do great work covering Wildcats athletics and, of course, Wildcats basketball, the number one team in the land right now. Off to an incredible start. 5 wins against top 25 opponents, an incredible start.
And their freshman class, I think, is underrated. Like, we talk about Houston, the number 2 recruiting class in the country, and Peterson at Kansas and DeBonsa at BYU. Arizona had 2 of the top 11 recruits in college basketball, according to 24/7 Sports composite ratings. And that's the thing, like, you look at the top 20 freshmen in college basketball, I believe this is an elite class. Like, this is not a class nationally that comes around every year, not just in the Big 12, but when you talk about Boozer at Duke and Ament at Tennessee and Darius Acuff Jr. at Arkansas, all those guys are leading their teams. But the Big 12, the thing that stands out is the Big 12 hit on all of these highly touted prospects. Like Chris Sinak is a dude down at Houston. Kingston Flemings was the number 20 rated recruit out of high school. He's an all Big 12 type player. Peterson at Kansas, if he gets to 100%. DeBonsa at BYU, I believe, is the best player in the country. And then, Koa Pete and Braden Burries at Arizona are the two of the top 3 leading scorers for the Wildcats. Even Yesufu, like Tunde Yesufu down at Baylor, gets overlooked. Number 14 rated prospect, Baylor's leading scorer. He's a baller. Like, all of these guys, the Big 12 did not miss on any of these recruits. This is, I think, the best freshman class in Big 12 history. And that includes the Durant class, the Michael Beasley class, all the other great classes over the years. I think this is the best of the bunch, collectively.
Didn't miss, huh?
Except didn't miss among the guys that are 100% healthy and on the floor.
I would submit to you that even those guys are 100% healthy.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
This is Big 12 Today, a Big 12 radio presented by Modelo, along with James Westling. I am Ari Tepkin. All right, the future of the college football playoff continues to be a discussion. So what's the best model, 12, 16, or 24? That's next. This is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, along with James Westling. I am Ari Temkin. Great to have you with us today and every day here on your home for the Big 12. Tune in Big 12 Studios on social, X and Instagram at James Westling. You can always get me on X and Instagram at Ari Sports, ARI Sports. Big 12 today is presented by Modelo. All right, I want to get into some of the future college football playoff discussions, but saw this on X the other day and thought it was worth mentioning. So Liam Bluntman from Barstool Sports says, also just for what it's worth here, have it on very good authority that Kyle Whittingham does have a lot of interest in the Michigan job. Have to imagine he'd only have a chance if DeBoer and Dillingham pass up on Michigan, but man, Whittingham's interest in this job is no joke from what I'm told. It's a serious desire. Which, why wouldn't Kyle Whittingham be interested in the Michigan job, right? He's out of a job right now, it appears, following the Las Vegas Bowl. And so who wouldn't be interested in the Michigan job in that situation, right?
Right.
But I think it sort of brings up a bigger, larger question, which is, was Kyle Whittingham pushed out? Was Kyle Whittingham pushed out? Now, we were told by a reporter from, was it?
KSL.
Yeah, from KSL, that happened. That Kyle Whittingham said he wanted to return, and they were like, hey, cool, no.
Exactly. And when he joined us on the show, not Whittingham, but the reporter from KSL Sports, which has a very high pedigree, a very trusted source in Salt Lake City. He comes on the show and says in the most monotone, dried version of events that Kyle Whittingham, who has to give Utah a notice by a certain date, which was like December 10th or 9th, something like that, a couple of weeks ago, he has to give them a written notice that he either wants to come back or he wants to retire. When that deadline hit, Kyle Whittingham sent the email that said, I want to come back and coach at Utah one more season. And Utah said, we have other ideas. The guy said that on our show. And we, like, alarm bells were going off. We're like, wait a minute. Kyle Whittingham was pushed out. They were ready to make the transition to Morgan Scalley. So if Kyle Whittingham wants to coach again, absolutely he would want the Michigan job. I mean, I totally get it from his side. I also get it from the Michigan side. I think Michigan, they're idiots if they don't hire this guy. Like, I know he's 66, but
Idiots?
give him 2 or 3 years, like, to turn this thing around immediately. When you think about all the great Michigan teams, you think about smash mouth football, game manager type quarterbacks, elite defenses. That's what they've had historically for many, many years. Kyle Whittingham is a guy that would go in there, number one, and clean up the program because, like, the dude just, he's not going to mess around. Like, if you're doing anything that isn't by the book, you're out. Kyle Whittingham is old school. And the way he gets the most out of his players and his brand of football, I think it's an amazing fit.
Yeah. So, and there's another side to this that I want to get to, but I think you're totally right. Like, I can't imagine Michigan fans being enamored with this move, but I think it's, given the circumstances, like if you can go get Kalen DeBoer or Kyle or Kenny Dillingham, sure. I think probably better options at this point in time. Mm-hmm. But I don't think Kalen DeBoer is leaving Alabama for Michigan. I don't think Kenny Dillingham is leaving Arizona State for Michigan. So maybe there's a hidden option C here, but based on what we've heard reported, like, I don't know that there's many options better than Whittingham if Dillingham and DeBoer aren't options. And especially given, like, you need an adult in the room right now. You need a meat and potatoes guy that, like, you know what you're going to get from Kyle Whittingham. And it's almost a no-brainer to me. Now, again, he is 66, and he was just in a situation in which, you know, he had a head coach in waiting, but it seems more and more like that was imposed on him as much as it was his own decision-making because, again, it appears like he was pushed out at Utah, which then begs the other question. How do Utah fans feel about this? How do you feel as a fan of the sport, as a fan of the Big 12?
I mean,
Would you rather have 5 years of Kyle Whittingham or 5 years of Morgan Scalley?
5 years of Whittingham. I was shocked to find out that
This was not Whittingham's decision.
that they pushed him out. I mean, especially when I look at what they have coming back for next season. Like, I believe the pieces are there to make a run at not just a Big 12 championship, but a national championship.
Which is probably why Whittingham didn't want to step aside.
Absolutely. I mean, he didn't want to step aside last year and leave the team after a 5-7 year. He's like, I can't go out like that. Well, this year they're knocking on the door, which is why I was stunned. I mean, I thought for sure he was coming back next year. When you've got Devin Dampier back at quarterback, you're always dominant on the offensive and defensive lines. Whittingham oversees the defensive side of the football, side by side with Morgan Scalley. They have Smith Snowden, who can come back next year. Like, their linebackers can be back. They put guys in the NFL each and every year. I wouldn't shake the tree. I would absolutely welcome him back one more year with open arms, because I believe Utah can make a run at a natty, especially with this $500 million cash injection that they're getting as part of this private equity deal. Like, you can get a lot of really good players with a coach who has always done more with less.
Yeah.
And now there are some unknowns. Sure, I think Utah is going to be very good next year. But like Utah at that level, Big 12 championship or college football playoff level, I'd want a guy who's been there and done it and been to many Rose Bowls and knows, how to get his team ready for that moment in that stage. And there's nobody better in my eyes than Whittingham.
And look, maybe, we reserve the right to be wrong here. And, obviously the Mark Harlan and the brass at Utah have probably seen the inner workings of this a lot closer than we have to understand, how much Whittingham embraces the modern world, NIL, the transfer portal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? I mean, vis-a-vis Morgan Scalley. So, maybe there's some stuff we're not seeing here. And again, like, maybe the next 5 years with Morgan Scalley are better than anything that they could have had with Kyle Whittingham. But it just feels like the devil you know beats the devil you don't know at this point in terms of being a head coach. Mm-hmm. And my guess is Utah did not anticipate that Kyle Whittingham would continue to coach, which is why they felt like this was the prudent move.
Yep. And I don't think Utah is going to have a drop-off with Scalley. Like, I think Scalley is going to be a really good coach at Utah.
But we don't know.
Exactly. Like, I think he's ready. I think the defense will look the same. I think he can get guys to come back. That's another thing. Whittingham is one of the few coaches in college football that through this transition has done an excellent job, Utah and BYU both, of player retention. What does that look like now that Whittingham's gone? Scalley's known as a player's coach, so maybe there's not much there. But again, we don't know. It opens the door up for more risk, in my opinion, of what next season could look like, letting Kyle go, I believe, a year too soon.
I genuinely would love to see Michigan hire Kyle Whittingham because I just want to see how it would turn out.
Yeah. It wouldn't be Bill Belichick. I can tell you that.
No.
It'd be the total opposite side of it. Another guy who's just out there, and I'm a little bit surprised. I mean, maybe I shouldn't be because of how this season and last season went. Mike Gundy's only 58. Like, I'm not saying Mike Gundy to Michigan, but Mike Gundy's only 58. Now, Mike Gundy doesn't like NIL. He doesn't want anything to do with it. But if he could step into a program where he doesn't have to handle that side of it, he's got a general manager. He just gets to coach his guys. He doesn't have to have these budget meetings with athletic directors and school presidents where he has to go through the entire roster player by player and show them how much each player is getting when it comes to the house settlement and their salary cap. Like, if he doesn't have to do any of that stuff like he did at Oklahoma State, why not Mike Gundy?
I love Mike Gundy, but no.
You think the game has completely passed him by?
Yeah.
I think it was players. I think it was his players. He didn't have any players.
Yeah, but who's responsible for that?
I think some of it's him, and I think some of it's the athletic department. I think both things can be true.
Yeah. And look, again, I mean, who knows behind the scenes how this was really going, but Whittingham has shown he can win in the modern era more so than Gundy, which is crazy to say because Gundy just played for a Big 12 championship game, but that was seemingly a long time ago.
Feels that way.
Yeah.
It feels that way.
All right, on to the future of the college football playoff, along with James Westlake. I'm Ari Temkin. Brian D. Fisher for Sports Illustrated wrote about the future of the college football playoff, centered on a meeting that occurred between, the three major athletic directors, or major commissioners, I should say, in Brett Yormark, Jim Phillips and Greg Sankey meeting in person a few months ago, and then the commissioner, I keep saying athletic director, the commissioner of the Big Ten also meeting, but that one via Zoom, which is sort of interesting. And, again, continuing to kind of be far apart, both literally, physically, and metaphorically in how they're talking about this playoff. It appears, based on Fisher's reporting here, that Yormark, Phillips, and Sankey are all on board with a 16-team playoff field, but the Big Ten is really hammering home this 24-team playoff. And in the article where Fisher is going through everything that he's reporting on, he's got a quote from Jim Phillips, and he says, quote, "My barometer over what's enough and what's not enough is you're leaving teams out of the playoff that could win a national championship, then you don't have the right number. I think you have it at least to look at 16, but you may need to look at a little bit more than that. That's what we're doing. The cut line needs to be closer to all those that really have a legitimate chance to be in the playoff, have a chance to win it, and we don't have that right now." End quote. Okay, do we? Not?
So with that line, he's saying that teams ranked between 16 and 24 are legitimate teams that can win a national championship?
He's either saying teams between 12 and 16 or 16 to 24. First of all, I'm not even sure how he came to that conclusion. No, I mean, literally only the 12 teams in the playoff can win a national championship.
Apparently he thinks USC is a real dark horse, and USC can win a national championship because they're like number 15 in the college football playoff.
It almost begs the much larger question of what? Who's deciding who can and cannot win a national championship?
Yeah, it's a really good point.
Could the 9-7 Giants win a Super Bowl the one year that they did? I know that's an anomaly. It doesn't happen very often, but it did happen. But I don't think going into that playoff, we thought that they could win a Super Bowl that year.
Yeah, and I touched on this the other day. With a current 16-team model that's been proposed, the Big Ten wouldn't have any additional teams. Like the 3 extra teams, or the 4 extra teams, I should say, that would be in the field. 2 are from the Big 12, and then the 2 others are from the SEC. So there's no Big Ten team that would be in the 16-team field. So I don't think it's a coincidence that he's against that all of a sudden. Basically, we have a hung jury. We've got a hung jury. We've got 3 guys that are like, okay, this is good, let's do it. And then you've got Tony Petitti, who's on this power trip and pushing back. And I'm fascinated by the dynamics and just watching it all play out and almost just grabbing a bag of popcorn, because I think the Big 12 is in a really good spot either way. The Big 12 with a 16-team field gets at least 1 more team in this year, maybe 2 with Utah. So multiple Big 12 teams are now alive at the end of the year. And if it goes to this 24-team proposal that all of a sudden we're on board with, it locks in 4 automatic bids, which would have included Houston in the field this year. It also would have included Arizona in the field based off of the pecking order. So either way, the Big 12 will have a larger opportunity to play it out on the field, which is what Commissioner Yormark is all about.
The quote from Phillips, that cut line needs to be closer to all those that really have a legitimate chance to win it. And we don't have that right now.
That is the most subjective statement I've ever heard in my life.
It's the epitome of subjectivity. Huh? No. The teams that have a legitimate chance to win it are the teams that are in it.
All right, so college
USC
football
doesn't have a legitimate chance to win it because they're not in the playoff.
And then where's the cut line then? Where's the cut line? If you can say, if that's the methodology, and you're going to tell me 24 teams have a chance to win it, what about Team 25? What about Team 26?
Right.
These teams all have the same record.
Right. No, there's teams that are being left out right now that could win a national championship. Okay, but where does that end?
Right. You could say the same thing about the NFL.
Any team that's in it technically has a chance to win it. Now, historically, there's probably only been about 4 teams that could win it all, right? But we don't have a 4-team playoff. We have an expanded playoff.
Mm-hmm.
I love the 12-team. I'm not going to lie to you. The more I hear about expansion, the more I don't want it expanded. Now, it would benefit the Big 12. and a 16-team field would, or maybe.
Right. And maybe a 12-team. Keep it the way it is would benefit the Big 12. If Texas Tech wins a game in the college football playoff, if Texas Tech wins 2 games in the college football playoff,
Which I would submit to you they will.
that will open the door for everybody else in this league because it raises the conference prestige to another notch. Because all of a sudden, well, maybe those teams that Texas Tech played in the regular season
Weren't as bad as we thought.
got them ready for the college football playoff.
Yeah.
So Texas Tech winning is a good thing for everybody in this league.
What do you want, 12, 16, or 24?
What do I want? I mean, I'm okay with any of them. I actually like the 24-team model. Like, if we're going to keep expanding, we're going to get there eventually.
Yeah.
If we're not going to leave it the way it is, which I'm in favor of, what do I want? I want a 4-team college football playoff. I thought that was the best, especially in a year like this where the top 4 seeds, there's a clear cut line, and it's 1 through 4. Now, I know last year that wasn't the case because you had, an 8 against a 10 or a 7-10 matchup in the national championship game. So I'm either for reducing it, which would never happen. But if we're expanding, let's just go to 24. Like, give me 4 or 5.
You're
Give me 4 or
living
5
on the
teams.
margins here. 4 or 24. See, I really like the 12-team playoff. I liked the 4-team for the reasons you just brought up. But I really like the 12-team because of these matchups we have. We've got some really juicy matchups.
Yeah, but we're going to have juicy matchups whatever we expand to. If we keep it at 12 or 16 or 24, you think if we get to 24, the juicy matchups are no longer that
Yeah, because we
juicy?
still have JMU Oregon. I think we're going to have a lot of JMU Oregons in a 24-team field.
Let's see. I saw a bracket the other day.
And by the way, there was an adjustment. We suggested this could happen. Didn't even realize that 18 months ago this already did happen, which is the memorandum of understanding has already been adjusted for next year. Mm-hmm. This happened 18 months ago to where they actually name the 4 power conferences as conference champs get automatic bids from these 4 conferences, and then the group of 6 gets an additional conference champ. So the idea of getting 2 group of 5, group of 6 teams in future playoffs is not going to happen in a 12-team field.
Wait, say that one more time?
The memorandum of understanding that was signed 18 months ago included the 2026 playoff having 4 automatic bids from the Power 4 and 1 from the group of 5. So the adjustment that we suggested could happen for next season already happened 18 months ago. It was already signed. It was just very much under the radar when it did happen.
Right. Okay, so not much is changing there, right? If you've got the 4 power conference.
Well, all that would change is Duke would be in the field this year, not James Madison.
Got it.
Give me James Madison over Duke this year.
Got it. I see what you're saying. Okay. So the 2026, like the 24-team FCS-style bracket, or the 24-team proposal from the Big Ten. The thing that I like about it is the teams that have byes in the opening round would still get to host a game, like Indiana, Ohio State, Texas Tech, Georgia. The top 8 seeds would actually host a game, plus all the other, 9 through 24 matchups in the opening round. Those would be at host sites. Before you get to the quarterfinals, then you'd play on a neutral field. And yeah, some of the matchups, like you'd have Kennesaw State in from Conference USA taking on Miami, but then Michigan, Utah in the opening round in that one. Texas and Tulane, BYU would play James Madison, and then if they won that game, they would play Oregon, USC, Arizona, in LA.
We don't need these games. Sorry, we don't need Michigan, Utah. I'm sorry. We don't. Look at what's happening with Michigan. And here's the other thing. We're going backwards. This is flip-flopped. People are complaining about the calendar, and rightfully so, because you have so many coaches that are look at Ole Miss. James Madison's losing their coach. You've got Oregon losing both of their coordinators. You had a 24-team playoff. You're only, you've flip-flopped. You need to fix the calendar first and then figure out how big your playoff could be.
Yeah.
They're doing it the opposite way. They're figuring out the playoff and then going backwards to try to establish a calendar. The calendar doesn't make any sense. There's free agency and coaches being hired in the middle of the playoff.
Mm-hmm. It'd have to be a total reset to expand and double the field. You've got to fix the calendar, and then you've got to figure out, where these teams get slotted in. To have Arizona in the field, to have Houston in the field, to have 5 Big 12 teams is exciting, yes, but then the other aspect of it, it further magnifies the lack of importance for all the other bowl games, which we're already seeing today. UTSA's Jeff Traylor was talking to a local news station just last night about he's got 20 players. 20 players. Like, you play maybe 40 or 50 guys in a game, and he's got 20 that are sitting out their bowl game because they're going to be in the portal. Or in some rare cases, he's got a couple guys getting ready for the NFL. Like, the lack of importance or excitement surrounding all the other bowl games further gets magnified the larger this playoff bracket goes.
That's James. I'm Ari. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Shreyas Lada gives us the latest on the Darren Peterson mystery coming up in about 20 minutes from now. On the way next, though, we get into our Big 12 Today all-conference teams. We finished off the offensive side of the football yesterday. Now we move to defense, and we are giving you our first, second, and third team all-conference defensive ends. And I bet you we have the same three. That's next. This is Big 12 Today, Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Big 12 Radio. This is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo. Along with a guy who's dressed like Garth Elgar from Wayne's World, like it's Halloween. I'm Ari Tebkin. Big 12 Today.
I own a chainsaw. I'm a man.
I'm leaning way more into the Garth Elgar look than I am the lumberjack.
Lumberjack because it's unbuttoned.
Unbuttoned and the joggers, the dead giveaway.
The cool factor. By the way, Taman understood the assignment. Christmas jams, all show. Ari got mad at him yesterday. Was like, "Where's the Christmas music?" Behind the scenes, it was violent, and
I got his back.
Taman responded.
That's right.
In a big way.
That's right. He was up to the task. He understood the assignment, and yeah, he's bringing the jams, the tunes, getting us ready and into the Christmas spirit. We are a week away from Christmas. Leave it up to the Jewish guy to tell the other people that
we gonna do some Christmas
time for
stuff
Christmas
tomorrow?
music. What's Christmas stuff?
I got some ideas.
Okay,
Some fun Christmas stuff. You want to do it?
like a white elephant gift?
No, just like on the show.
Yeah,
We could do that. A white elephant gift exchange. That's a great idea.
Is
we can
it?
exchange gifts on the air. Yes. Just bring something funny from around the house. I'm writing it down. Taman, don't forget. Don't forget.
All right, so a minimum of $70 to spend on this.
$70?
Just kidding.
High standard.
No, yeah, I was kidding.
Kidding. My wife told me what she's getting me for Christmas last night because it's not going to arrive until like December 29th.
Oh.
So she's like, I really just want to tell you now so that you're not disappointed on Christmas for your lack of gifts, which I'm super high maintenance. Clearly, I'm counting every gift.
Well, all those Amazon packages, huh?
All those Amazon packages, not a lot for this guy.
So what are you getting?
Custom Air Force Ones.
Oh.
Sorry, Air Maxes. Because
still
I'm
no
not-
J's, huh?
Because no J's. I'm not wearing my Air Maxes today, but she says you're wearing those a little too much.
Does she know that they make Jordans? Yes.
Yeah, she knows.
Okay. Just want to be sure.
She knows. Man, I'm all about comfort.
Why are you anti?
And style.
Why are you anti J's?
I'm not.
You're anti J's.
I'm anti-price of J's.
Oh, and the
That's
Air
it.
Maxes that are custom,
Custom Air Maxes.
are way cheaper.
How much is a pair of J's?
I have
Like,
a
legit.
solution for you.
He told you he bought 3 pairs of J's for $100.
It was on Black Friday, but the solution is Nike Outlet Store.
Yeah, but then I have to leave my house, Taman.
I can't help you there.
You don't have to
but
leave your house to get a good deal on J's. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I agree.
What's a
with
good deal? Can you get me a pair of J's for less than $100?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not getting you anything, but
Well, you
yeah.
can find me.
No,
Find me a deal.
you can find them yourselves.
Again, Nike Outlet Store.
Or go to the Nike website. You can look sale. You'll see it right there.
All right, that feels like a lot of work. I'll be busy chopping wood.
Along with James Amari. All right, we've got Shreyas Latta from the Kansas City Star joining us to help us wade through the Darren Peterson mystery, or maybe there's no mystery at all. Maybe we know exactly what it is, and it's right out there for us to see. We'll get with him on that. But we've been doing our Big 12 Today all-conference team, and we made it through offense. We did quarterback, wide receiver, running back, offensive line, and tight ends. Today we are on defensive ends, so we've differentiated between DNs, pass rushers, and defensive line. But our top 3, Big 12 Today, all-conference DNs. James, who is your third team defensive end?
All right, my third team, and let me make sure I do this in the right order today so I don't throw off our buddy Anthony back at the Big 12 Studios headquarters. I'm going with Anthony. I've got Romello Height, the Texas Tech edge rusher. He's a hybrid guy. He can play as an outside linebacker. He can play right up front. 6'3", 240 pounds, and he's a guy that coming into the season, we didn't know how it would pan out because he'd been at Auburn and USC and Georgia Tech, a billion schools, but Texas Tech, he has found a home. He's got almost double-digit sacks. He's got 10 TFLs. He's just rock solid, consistent. I think he's the most underrated, just straight up get to the quarterback, edge rusher in this conference, although he did make all Big 12, midseason All-American honors. He's going to be a Senior Bowl invitee. I think his stock is always only going to skyrocket once he gets to the combine because he looks like a marvel movie character. He's just a beast.
I'm pretty sure we're going to be unanimous with our top three because it's fairly obvious. I thought maybe there might be a difference here with third team, but yeah, Romello Height, my third team, defensive end as well. 9 sacks, 10.5 tackles for loss in 13 games. He and David Bailey impacted each other, right? And you think about, Romello Height was their big defensive end acquisition this offseason, and then they end up including and getting David Bailey late in the process, and look at how much better they've made each other. Yeah, Romello Height, a third team, all Big 12 for me as well. Second team.
All right, second team, all Big 12. I have got Utah defensive end John Henry Daly. 6'4", 255 pounds, originally committed to BYU, transferred to Utah, became a starter, 11.5 sacks, almost 20 tackles for loss. All Big 12 first team by the coaches and the media, second team All-American, and he was the best player on the field for Utah in their loss to Texas Tech early in the year. I cannot get that game out of my mind. The way he just battered Baron Morton. Then Will Hammond comes in, and Texas Tech wins that game on the ground between the tackles because John Henry Daly was a one-man wrecking crew off the edge, getting to the quarterback. He's explosive. He is Utah's defensive cornerstone, and he's going to be a huge name to watch this offseason. I think he suffered a late-season injury. He's just a redshirt sophomore. He's not listed on Utah's last depth chart. They have to have him back next year.
Yeah, I mean, he played in 11 games. So, I mean, he had a chance to having finished the season to be first team All Big 12, which says a lot because David Bailey is an absolute monster. But, yeah, John Henry Daly, unanimous second team All Big 12 for me as well. Is it good to average 1 sack a game, 11.5 sacks in 11 games, 17.5 tackles for loss? Just an absurd number. And he rushed from the inside, he rushed from the outside, as you saw when watching the highlights. Guy's a monster and a maniac, and he's John Henry Daly. Second team All Big 12, unanimous.
Baller.
First team All Big 12.
It is
David Bailey.
David Bailey.
Trying to time it up.
We were trying to do it in sync. It didn't work out so well.
Screwed that up.
The nation's top sack producer, 12.5 sacks, elite pass rusher, led the Big 12. Actually, 13.5 sacks. Unanimous first team All Big 12. He's a senior, okay? So he's off to the NFL. I think he's a top 15 NFL draft pick.
Yeah.
Teams are so, these edge rushers that can just hammer the quarterback, they always seem to go higher than their projections. So if he's projected late first, I think he's mid first, the anchor of that Texas Tech pass rush.
Speed rusher. He's got speed. He's got power. 13.5 sacks. So in 13 games, averaging a sack a game. 17.5 tackles for loss. He had 3 forced fumbles. He was as disruptive as any player in college football this year. And the thing is, it's we look at the sack numbers, but he was as good against the run as he was against the pass. And I think that's what makes him a top 15 pick, is just his ability to be not just a situational pass rusher, but a legitimate defensive end who can play as well against the run as he can against the pass. Oregon, if you don't know, you soon will find out.
And he was a late portal addition. They got him in the late window. He was the biggest name out there on the board. Texas Tech lands him. Where would Texas Tech be without him? I think they still would have had a really nice season, but he's the guy that took them from a team that wins 9 or 10 games, is in the conversation for a Big 12 championship, to a team that has a first-round bye in the college football playoff. He is that impactful.
Thank you, Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck single-handedly gave the Big 12 Bear Bachmeier and David Bailey. Thank you, Andrew. How nice of you. James Wesley, Ari Tepkin. Should we do interior defensive lineman tomorrow?
Yeah, I've got defensive tackles up next. What do you think?
Yeah, defensive tackles tomorrow.
DTs.
Let's make our way through all Big 12 teams. With James, I'm Ari. It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. Shreyas Laddha from the Kansas City Star. Is the Darren Peterson mystery actually a mystery at all? We'll get into that with him next. This is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Big 12 Radio, this is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo, along with James Westling. I am Ari Tepkin, and we are pleased to be joined right now by our friend Shreyas Laddha from the Kansas City Star. Talk a little KU hoops. Shreyas, what's going on, man? How are you?
Good, how are you guys?
Doing well, thank you. Anything going on with Kansas basketball right now, other than what's happening on the floor?
I've only written about it about 15 times, it feels like, already. Darren Peterson and his ongoing
that
saga of ailments, injuries, and everything in between.
What is your take on Bill Self right now and how he's handling this and what he believes versus what he's saying?
I think he's done a better job of being a little more transparent as of late. I think, early on with this whole saga, it seemed like Bill didn't quite understand what he wanted to say and what he didn't want to say. Because, he initially said it was a hamstring strain that happened the day of practice. I was told the day before it had happened in the UNC game before that. He comes out a few days later and says, actually, the hamstring strain happened before Tuesday. And I think now it's not a hamstring strain. It's just the quad cramping issues, what he said multiple times. I will take his word for it in that sense. But I think they're all just kind of related, to be honest. Hamstring strain, quad cramping, regular cramping, whatever. But he's played four basketball games. And we're about to enter 2026. He has one more game before 2026. He's played 22 minutes in Allen Fieldhouse. This entire thing has been exhausting for everyone involved. I'm sure it's really exhausting for him, his camp, for Bill Self. And it's an exhausting process of wondering whether he's going to play or not as somebody who has to cover this Kansas basketball team.
Have you ever, in your time covering college basketball or any sport, ever seen a guy miss a game due to cramping?
I have not, but I've had guys who have had to leave games due to cramping. I think it happened once or twice when I was covering UConn in that year with Dan Hurley and staff. But cramping is such a weird issue to me because, I asked Bill about it. Have they looked at past instances with guys like Devontae Graham, et cetera, that he's had to deal with? And he said Devontae had it as bad as anybody. And then, they had to get time to figure it out. And I asked if they talked to Duke's medical staff because Banchero had it a couple of years ago. I think he used to lose 7 pounds due to cramping or something like that, which is nuts. And it took them a while to figure out. But Bill was basically we've talked to every medical staff in the country to figure this thing out. He's like, we're trying different things, the mustard packet thing. And I don't know how widely known this is, but I wrote in one of my stories, Peterson had a cramp last year when he was at Prolific Prep, when he was playing against Agent Bonza. He had a toe cramp. He took a mustard packet, it worked, and he went back out there. So, theoretically, this is not the first time that he has had cramping issues. It just might be the first time he's had cramping issues in his quad.
So, Shreyas, we are going to task you with an impossible assignment here on Big 12 Today. Yeah. And that assignment is convince us that this isn't just load management for Darren Peterson.
I don't think it's load management because there's no harm to him playing or not playing. Every NBA draft guy I talk to, whether he has not played a single minute college basketball or he's missed 7 games and count or 8 games and counting because of hamstring and out the cramp thing, they all still have him at the number 1 overall pick. And the crazy part to me is we don't see him he hasn't been 100% in his entire tenure at Kansas, and he's still averaging 19 and 5 a game. So to me, load management isn't really makes sense because this guy is so tapped in with Kansas in the sense of I wrote about it before the season started. He's recruiting guys in the 26 and 27 class to come to Kansas. He really wants Kansas to be a good basketball team after he leaves. Everything I've read, heard, anything in between about him, he's a guy who's obsessed with being out there on the court in the sense of his morning routine. He's doing 1,000 free throws a day. He has individual workouts with Jock every single day, alongside regular practice, regular lifts. He's doing shoot-arounds in the morning for an hour or two, and then he's doing another shoot-around, after practice. His work ethic is second to none from everything I've heard and everything I've covered over the years. Now his immune system, his body, everything else, that it doesn't look like it's quite caught up to his work ethic and everything else at the moment. And the thing concerning to me is Bill Self talked about how when you get older, your body doesn't necessarily respond to, or your mind doesn't respond to what your body is saying. And I'm like, and Bill was like, that's happening to him at 19 years old. And I was like, that's not good, right? Like that's really bad. But hopefully his sake, Kansas' sake, my sake, and everyone else's sake who likes watching good basketball, he figures it out sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, forgive my incredulity here, Shreyas. I get the work ethic part. Like, you can't be great and not have an insane work ethic. Like that, it's impossible. The question is whether or not he's committed to Kansas basketball. That I don't see. And that's, I guess, like, people are relating to this to Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving didn't get $3 million to go to Duke. At least we don't know that he did. He didn't have to take $3 million to go to Kansas. He could have just sat out this year and trained the entire year with Jacques Vaughn, perhaps. He could have trained with anybody this entire year to get ready for the NBA draft. So again, you'll have to forgive my incredulity on this.
I mean, look, I get it. I'm frustrated by the situation too. You have a generational talent that comes to Kansas. I've covered. Now this is my fourth season of Kansas basketball, and I've covered UConn for 1 year. Between those 4 years, I have not seen a single team make it past the second round. You don't understand how excited I was for Darren Peterson to give me.
You're the problem, Shreyas. We figured out the issue.
That's what my friends tell me. They tell me, let me know when you're leaving the Kansas beat so we can put in a futures bet in for Kansas basketball. Dan Hurley, I talked to him last year, for a Chiefs story about Chiefs three-peat. First thing he says to me, I haven't talked to him in a year and a half, mind you, but that's my guy. He says, you leave the beat, I win 2 national titles. I was like, Dan, you can't say that to me. You can't say that to me. My friends always say that to me, So you don't understand how excited I was when Darren Peterson was. I was like, I just want to watch good basketball. I'm a basketball guy. I was excited for him to come out and play. He's a generational talent. And this entire saga, instead of writing about how good Darren Peterson is, I'm having to write about his injury history, his quad cramping, his how he's feeling, why he's 90%, not 100%, or why he's 70%, why this thing. And I think Bill Self is annoyed about it. I think everyone involved about this entire situation, including him, is frustrated. And I don't blame him, and I don't blame them, because this entire saga has gone on so long, longer than anyone expected. And to me, it's getting more and more concerning because if he doesn't come back by UCF, like on January 3rd, like, let's just shut it down. Like, not to be.
I'm with you.
Not to be like, hyperbolic or whatever, but like at that point, like, it's conference play started. You've had a couple of weeks off. I'm not sure, like, they can figure out a way if he keeps on coming in the lineup and then he has to go out in 2 days or 2 games, and then he keeps on doing that. It's just too difficult for the entire team to kind of mesh if the team is constantly changing or evolving.
Yeah. So, Shreyas, we've heard from Bill Self a lot. He's releasing statements on social media. We've heard the chatter from the outside. But how do the players, how do his teammates feel about this entire saga, and is it messing with them?
Well, anytime anyone asks them about it, they're diplomatic and they say what they need to say, right? We're going to do what we need to do without Darren. And he's pretty well loved on the team. This team is, in particular, out of the teams I've covered at Kansas, are very close. Bill Self joked about it, how these guys have girlfriends, but they hang out with each other more, which I don't understand, which I thought was hilarious. But, I think there's a level of, closeness this team has. And I think that's one of the reasons Peterson wants to come out there so badly. He knows he's never going to play college basketball after this year again. And he wants a legacy to be here. But if he can't play, he can't play. And I think these guys get it. But I'm sure there's a little bit of, their job is much more difficult without Peterson now because their offense isn't as good. It's built around him. Their defense is, typical Bill Self style defense where it's elite. Like, this is probably the best defense I've seen since I've been on the beat for Bill Self and the Kansas Jayhawks. They've been really, really good. It's just the offense has been pretty average to mediocre is what I'd say. And a lot of that is they just don't have Peterson out there, but also they just don't have shooting in general. But I think there's a level of, like, they get it and they're stepping up to the plate, but I don't know how much grace that will be given if he's not back by conference play.
I'm going to ask you a ridiculous question here. What is the likelihood if Kansas doesn't make it out of the first round this year and they do shut down Darren Peterson or whatever, he keeps playing this whole game the entire rest of the season, or he's in and he's out, and he hasn't finished a game yet this season to my knowledge. What's the likelihood that Bill Self's the coach of Kansas next year? Okay, let me phrase it a different way. Is there a hot seat situation here a little bit?
I don't think there's a hot seat, but I've never Peterson, I've never felt like Bill was going to be in Lawrence past the next 2 seasons anyways.
Wow.
Like, that's always been my internal feeling. And
why is that?
Just I've heard behind the scenes the health thing is worse than he lets on. He's been complaining about it. I've heard, there's some level that Jock, he wants to see how much he likes coaching college basketball. That's the big thing. Jock is beloved, and there is some recruits that are coming to Kansas next year, or commits really, where their camp has told me, like, they've been told that Jock could potentially be the head coach in waiting.
Wow.
I don't know how true that is,
right.
And camps say a lot of things, but I've always felt like if he had a good year this year, like a deep run, he gets a good year with the squad, it was this year or next year as his last year. He recruited a pretty good class for next year. I think it's still, like, potentially you could ask Tyron Stokes, depends on what happens with that, which would be another big get for them. Darren is recruiting him personally as well. So they're trying to make sure he ends up at Kansas. But I never really felt like the idea that Bill Self is going to be here for 5 years was true, especially after this summer. I mean, I wrote a whole story about it. I talked to, a heart surgeon up here, and obviously I couldn't talk super specifics about it. And he told me the cataracts is not not the cataracts, but the stents are not a big deal, is what I was told. But, it is a little bit of a pretty common procedure. But the more often it happens, it's a little more eye-raising.
Yeah.
And to me, I always felt like when you bring in somebody like Jacques, you're basically trying to see if this guy's going to be good enough to coach Kansas basketball next. You went from coaching KD, Kyrie, and Harden to whatever iteration of next college superstar is. You got to see if you can coach college basketball.
Yeah, well said.
I mean, Kansas has the number 2 rated recruiting class for class of 2026 right now in the country with 4 commitments. So with that said, does Jacques Vaughn, does he like coaching college basketball? I mean, just from being around him and the team, what's the sense that you get in terms of him actually enjoying it?
Well, I think he's enjoying it. I think he's enjoying the process of working with these guys. He's working very close with Flory and with Darren every single day, is what I've heard. And I was talking to Travis Goff about this. I mean, Jock was very interested in just trying to figure out, what his role would be like when he came to Kansas, of like how he can help the team, the development of these guys. And it's clear to me that Jock's prestige of working in the NBA and coaching some of the guys he's coached is something that a lot of recruits like. That's a lot of, like, I get that mentioned to me a lot of, like, Bill Self, and then the next sentence would be like, Jock has coached the NBA. He's coached KD and Kyrie, and I want to be the next superstar. Taylor Kinney, his camp, him, like, they were very, like, I heard the word Jock probably as much as the word I heard Bill Self, in that sense. I think they think very highly of him, some of these recruits. They understand what he can bring to the table. No disrespect to the rest of the staff, but Jock has a pedigree that I think the rest of the staff does not. And I think that has helped in recruiting quite a ton. I do think he's enjoying it. I don't know how much he's enjoying it compared to what he was doing in the NBA. I mean, like, no disrespect to Lawrence, Kansas, but you're living in Brooklyn, coaching Kyrie and KD and James Harden. It's kind of a little bit of a fall off in my mind, at least. I love New York, but Lawrence to New York is kind of a little bit of a jump in style of life.
Yeah. You don't have to tiptoe around that one, Shreyas. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with you there. I lived in Lawrence for 4 years, amazing place, but yeah, it's not Brooklyn, New York.
We're in Big 12 country, okay? There's somebody out there that thinks Morgantown, West Virginia is the best city in America, and I'm out there to tell them, please go visit anywhere else.
At least Morgantown is, let me cop from Morgantown before Lawrence, quite honestly.
I like Morgantown.
I hate Morgantown. That's my least favorite Big 12 city.
All right, Trace, real quick, because we got to let you go, but I do want to get your thoughts on the football situation. It seems like Leipold has lost more to the transfer portal this year than ever before.
Yeah, but most of those guys aren't good. So, the defense is just not very good right now. And the few that have left, obviously, John Camara, he's a guy who could have been a future stud linebacker. Lyric Rawls, starting safety. Those two are pretty good. But the rest are depth pieces. To me, they're like, okay, obviously, they're just going to have to reload in the transfer portal. But right now, with the way the transfer portal situation is, the window not opening until January 2nd, you're only going to hear bad news, per se.
Good point.
You can't pick up guys unless you're picking up D2 guys, which they did. They picked up Conde from Division II school. But to me, Kansas has a big overhaul they need to do on defense. They have a decent amount of people to replace because they have 33 seniors graduating. And the biggest question is, who's the starting quarterback of Kansas football next year? And I don't think we're going to know that until probably fall of sometime next year.
And last piece is, there's been a lot of noise around Andy Kotelnicki. That's not happening, right?
I've heard they've had discussions. I've been told that Lance and Andy are still pretty close. The families vacation together. I think the issue is what role would Andy come on? Because it's not like you're come in and make him offensive coordinator for Tim Zarowski. You just can't do that.
Why not?
And optics-wise, it's just a mess.
Yeah, you're right.
Right? And it's only been 1 year of the Zabrowski experience. Like, I think, he wasn't amazing, but I also think the offense clearly had some warts in it, and you have to give him a little more time. Lance historically, has not really fired most of his assistants or anything like that. So everyone's talking about Deacon McDonald and this and that, but I don't know if Kansas has the money to pay the buyout for Deacon McDonald and then also go out there and get Andy Kotelnicki. I think it'd be the one or the other if either happens. Going back to it, I think Andy probably wants a place where he can be a offensive coordinator. I just don't know where that's going to be at this tenure because I feel like his stock is right now is down, right? Like last year he was in West Virginia head coaching search, in amongst the mix to I don't know. I haven't really heard of him involved in any OC jobs. I feel like if he as good as he's looked at Kansas and he looked in that first year at Penn State, you would think some random Big Ten or ACC school would want him to be at least their OC.
Yeah, well said. Kansas doesn't have the money; they're paying it all to Darren Peterson right now. Shreyas, thank you, buddy. Great to talk with you. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Shreyas.
Shreyas Latta, Kansas City Star. Great stuff there. And look, he mentioned that he never really thought that Bill Self was there for the long haul based on the health situation. And stents are fairly common, but Bill Self's not a bus driver. He's got a pretty high leverage job at a school that, you can't go to the tournament and have a successful season, right? Bill Self has been to the tournament every year he's been there. That's a given. The Kansas has been there every year since 1989. Winning in the first round is not good enough. Mm-hmm. So he's got having a job with as much pressure to win as there is at Kansas basketball. That's not great on your heart,
right? And Shreyas said he thinks he's got a couple of years left. I would actually lean towards, I think this is the last season for Bill Self at Kansas. And I say that because Shreyas brought up the health side of it. I don't think it's a lack of enthusiasm or fan pressure or any of that stuff. I think it simply comes down to the toll that it takes on your body. And I did a sit-down interview with him at Big 12 Media Days, and the first question was, did he consider retirement this past offseason? And he answered, without a blink of an eye, yes, I almost retired this past offseason. And that was when all the health stuff was going on. And I'm just not convinced that he's not still in that mindset, that he's not fully recovered. Like, it's really hard coaching a college basketball team with the pedigree of a Kansas. And Jock Vaughn is crushing it on the recruiting trail. Like Talon Kinney, the point guard that's going to be at KU next year, top 15 player nationally, currently playing for Overtime Elite.
Does he have cramp issues?
He's a baller. I think he has healthy legs. Yeah, healthy legs.
Good.
Legs are strong.
Let's get it on. Next, we debate the biggest topics across the Big 12, including Darren Peterson, over under 6 transfer portal quarterbacks for the Big 12 next season. That's all next. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. It's Big 12 Radio. This is Big 12 Today. Along with James Wessling, I am Ari Temkin. Great to have you with us today and every day here in your home for the Big 12.
You know what I love about these Christmas music bumps? They're not too overpowering. They're not all the traditional. Like, we haven't heard any Mariah Carey just blasting through our headphones. It's been just kind of subtle.
You're right.
Like, subtle.
But still gets you all the Christmas feels.
Yeah, feel good, subtle music bumps.
There you go.
I got you, James.
Excited for the very Christmas spectacular that you're going to put together for us tomorrow.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then you are not coming into work on Monday.
Correct. Yep, I'll be out on Monday.
Why is that?
Well, because we will have a house full of little ones, and I pick my kids up over the weekend, and Monday I will be with them before we can get some parental support.
Got it.
My wife has.
Aren't you guys parents?
My wife has a few things she needs to do. I said, hey, I'll take one for the team. I want to go hang out with Artie and Taman and do Big 12 today, but I'll take one for the team.
Got it. Okay.
I mean, I can do it remote if you want me to join you remote for like some segments. Probably not every segment. Probably be a lot of in and out. There'd be children like throwing potatoes at each other in the background or whatever else they can find in the kitchen. It'd be just total chaos, the most off-the-wall stuff ever.
That's James Westling. I'm Ari Tepkin. All right, it's time for a little Let's Get It On, a la Mills Lane, where we put together some topics, and then we throw them out there, and then one of us has to take one side where the other takes the other side.
Okay.
Let's get it on! All right, guys. First one we have is Iowa State currently better than both Arizona and Houston.
Okay, so you're asking us if Iowa State is the best team in the Big 12 right now.
Yes.
You, me, you.
What's the second one? I'll take this one. Go ahead.
Now, if you want this one, you have it.
Thank you. I'm not gonna. All right, so I lost my train of thought. No, Iowa State's not the best team in the Big 12. The best team in the Big 12 is Arizona. James?
Okay. Let me build my case for Iowa State being the best team in college basketball. Number one, it starts with Kyron Torre, the flying Frenchman, who locks down the opponent's best player.
Is that his actual nickname, by the way?
They have no, I made it up.
I love it.
But he's from France.
I got it.
He's from France. If you didn't know,
I got that.
You got that part. The flying Frenchman. I don't even know if he can dunk, but it sounds good. So, yeah, him. I trust in TJ Otzelberger, everything they're doing in the non-conference. And here's what makes this Iowa State team different. Their firepower offensively. They're always locked down nails defensively, but this year they have some dudes that can really fill it up in Momcilovic, who's 100% healthy. That's the only thing that held them back last year was him missing games down the stretch. Joshua Jefferson finally stopped turning the ball over, and they've got the best point guard in the league in Taman Lipsey, who does it on both ends of the floor. He's healthy, averaging 15.5 points per game, a developmental player that's been in Ames for 4 years. That's why Iowa State's the best team in the league.
Counter argument. No.
And I don't disagree.
Did you like how that was my argument for is
Yeah.
Iowa State the best team in the Big 12? No. You, James?
I'm not going to lie. I feel a little bad for Iowa State. They're undefeated. And they just blew out Purdue.
The only, Taman, it would be a topic that I think we could debate if it wasn't for what Arizona's doing. Like, Iowa State might be the second best basketball team in the nation.
Again,
You know what I mean?
undefeated,
But
and
bro,
they
Arizona's
beat
beat
Purdue,
more
and they
top
blew
10
them
teams
out.
in the non-conference than anybody in the history of college basketball.
They have a case. Just saying.
I don't know if you know this. Arizona's also undefeated.
They are, but you can make the argument for either. I'm just saying.
Okay, can you make the argument? Other than they beat Purdue by a bunch?
A lot. Okay. I have a feeling I know where this topic's going to go because we've kind of talked about it many times. But will Darren Peterson be the reason that Kansas struggles in the NCAA tournament?
All right, I'll take this one first. No, Darren Peterson won't be the reason KU struggles in the NCAA tournament.
Oh, I'm so happy you took this side of it. Yes.
He would be. Because he'll either be
really a good friend. You know that?
He'll either be I'm
Even though you're taking off Monday to look after your kids.
taking one for the team, bro.
You're a good friend.
All right, Darren Peterson will not be the reason KU struggles in the NCAA tournament because he won't be on the floor and won't have been on the floor for at least a month or two because they are on the verge of shutting him down for the season. Kansas will struggle in the NCAA tournament because of a lack of scoring, a lack of offense. Their defense is nails. Sure, they'll have their go-to guy in Melvin Council or Trey White, but it'll be the same story that we've seen the last 2 or 3 years where KU's lack of depth in the NCAA tournament and lack of firepower and scoring, that's what the reason will be.
James, don't be ridiculous. Let's think of other reasons for why they might.
That's what I'm doing.
No, I'm thinking like if it's got to be Darren Peterson. It's got to be Darren Peterson, right? Because it couldn't be those things that you just talked about. Couldn't be the lack of depth. Couldn't be coaching decisions or anything else, right? No, of course not. Yes, if Kansas struggles in the NCAA tournament, which I would say would be losing in the first weekend, not making it out of the first weekend, would be a struggle for Kansas. It would be because of Darren Peterson. Either one, because he has not been healthy enough to play all year, and so therefore would not be healthy enough to play in the tournament, or he sort of sabotaged the season by being in and out of the lineup the entire season, which has messed with the psyche of the roster for the entire season.
All of those things can be true.
And are.
What are the percentage chances that Darren Peterson is 100% at any point this season, full go, and by March, we're talking about a guy who's balling out and he's the Darren Peterson we thought Kansas was getting before the season?
1%?
It's pretty low.
At this point, we'd have to see something we haven't seen.
Right.
The guy finish a game first.
We can start with that.
Start the game, finish the game.
Finish the game. Be on the floor at the starting lineup, introductions, tip-off, and then be on the floor in the last minute.
At the end, yeah. No illnesses, no quad cramping, no hamstring cramping or strains or tightness or whatever.
That'd be cool. I'd like that.
All right. Over under 6 transfer portal quarterbacks in the Big 12 next season.
This one's you first.
So over under 6 transfer portal quarterbacks that are starting in the Big 12 next season.
Yeah, start.
QB1s.
QB1s.
Okay, so who do we know is going to have I'm going to say over.
Let's get it on!
Over 6. Arizona State, Oklahoma State, Kansas. Now, does Kansas have a transfer? Who am I missing here? There's some obvious ones.
Couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Alexa, who's in the Big 12? Let's just go through that.
Should probably take the under.
No, I'm taking the over. I'm pounding the over. Easily 6. Maybe even more.
Let's get it on!
I mean, I think when you look at this conference, you've got the guys that are going to be back, but then Brendan Sorsby's leaving. He's going to go most likely to Texas Tech. So that means Cincinnati will have a transfer quarterback that will be starting next year. Arizona State will have a transfer quarterback that will be starting next year. Texas Tech will have a transfer starting quarterback next year. That's 4 already. And we haven't even gotten to the programs that at this point we know won't even have their quarterbacks back next year. So, I expect that half of the starting quarterbacks in the Big 12 next year will be transfer quarterbacks. I will say this, though. I think there's a good chance that Kansas looks internally for their decision at quarterback 1. I think they bring in a transfer quarterback, and I think it's more than likely that Isaiah Marshall is their starting quarterback next year.
Totally agree. I think they bring in a portal quarterback and have a 3-man race with Cole Ballard, Marshall, and whoever the transfer is, kind of like they did when they brought in Jason Bean. Like, he was a transfer quarterback who was a starter at North Texas. They brought him in to be the backup. Then he had that breakthrough year. I'd love to hammer the over.
Was 6 not a high enough number? I thought 7 might have been too high.
I count as many as 10. All right? And correct me if I'm wrong. These are the teams I predict will have new quarterbacks next season that are transfers. Texas Tech.
Let's get it on!
Arizona State. TCU. Cincinnati. Baylor. Kansas. West Virginia. Colorado. Oklahoma State. That's 9. Got to 9.
Colorado?
Is Juju Lewis back next season at Colorado? That's where we can have that debate.
TCU?
TCU with Josh Hoover, and here's TCU's my dark horse to have a new quarterback because they just brought in Gordon Samus, the offensive coordinator from UConn. That is a run-first offense. Now, it's an NFL offense if that's his end game is to play in the NFL. But he would be throwing the ball half as many times.
West Virginia, Scotty Fox? You don't like the Scotty Fox experience?
I do like the Scotty Fox experience, but I think Rich Rod can do better for next year. Having a full season under his belt in the portal.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I would hammer the over. But if I'm making a case for the under, I would say that Josh Hoover gets talked into returning to TCU, and that Gordon Samus says, yeah, it's a run-first scheme, but it's what the Broncos were doing in the 90s and early 2000s, and they had plenty of Pro Bowl
And nobody remembers who their quarterbacks were.
Brian Greasy,
John who?
Jay Cutler.
I was thinking of Elway. But
Yeah, Elway.
you go
Yeah,
with
he was
that
pretty good.
Revolving door quarterback.
So let's say TCU gets him back. Kansas State, Avery Johnson. Let's say Kansas goes with Marshall or Ballard. UCF, Taven Jackson. West Virginia does
See,
go
I
with
think
Scotty
UCF
Fox.
is more likely to play the transfer portal game. I
see that
almost
too.
feel better about West Virginia quarterback than I do about UCF from what we saw this season.
There's no way mathematically that it'll be under 6, okay? Texas Tech.
What would have been a
Arizona
better
State,
number here? 8?
Baylor.
10?
You know what? Actually, I can make a case. All right, there's 4 teams we know are going to have new quarterbacks. Tech, Arizona State, Oklahoma State, and Baylor.
Cincinnati?
And Cincinnati. There's 5. Okay, 5 teams
Well,
we
6.
know.
Texas Tech.
I thought I said Tech.
Yeah, you
Did
might
I
have.
say Tech? 5 teams we know. Texas Tech, Arizona State, Cincinnati, Baylor, Oklahoma State.
Let's get it on!
Those are the 5 we know are going to have different quarterbacks next year. And then Kansas will have a different quarterback, might not be a transfer.
Let's get
So,
it
yeah, I
on!
see why you got 6. Sure, I can make a case for the under. Kansas doesn't bring in a transfer quarterback. It's Cole Ballard or Isaiah Marshall. They are the team that would swing the over-under.
Last topic. Will Kyle Whittingham be a college football head coach in 2026?
No. Kyle Whittingham will not be coaching next season.
Ari's face. Anthony, get a screenshot of that.
Because I think it's too late in the coaching cycle. I think most of the jobs outside of Michigan are buttoned up. And I don't think Kyle Whittingham is taking just any job. I think he's perfectly fine riding his Harley and hanging out with his Harley and hanging out with his grandkids for a year, kind of sit back, relax, and decide if retirement really is for him.
Could I ask, who's he riding?
His Harley Davidson motorcycle.
His Hardy? I am shocked that you took this side of it.
You thought I'd say he'd be coaching next year?
Yes. In fact,
I think it's a
I
long
wrote
shot.
down on my rundown myself that I was making the case for no.
Let's get it on!
So Michigan is going to hire a football coach, yes?
Yes.
Most likely a sitting head football coach right now, yes?
Yeah, it won't be Kyle Whittingham.
Okay, but they're good. They have to have a coach for
You
next
think the
season.
domino effect
Yes!
sends Whittingham? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, you can only ride the Harleys for so long. By the way, you can ride the Harley to and fro. You know, you could go home on the Harley. You can ride it there and back.
I think he's going to be more selective. I don't think he just takes any job. I think he just chills
Okay,
for
let's
a
say
year.
Jed Fish takes the Michigan job. Now Washington's open. Washington, you calling Kyle Whittingham?
Yes. If I'm Washington, I'm calling Kyle Whittingham.
Is that any job?
Probably.
Kyle Whittingham's coaching in 2026. Book it. Book it. Write it in ink. Never been more right about something in my life.
Washington actually makes a lot more sense to me than Michigan.
Yeah, it does.
Good call there.
In fact, if you're a Washington fan, I would think you'd want Jed Fish to take the Michigan job.
Yeah.
I'd rather have Whittingham than Fish. All right, this is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo along with James Westling. I am Ari Temkin. That's a little Let's Get It On. We're going to be talking with Kevin Young, the BYU men's basketball coach, on the way. This is Big 12 Today along with James Westling. I'm Ari Temkin. It's Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo, heard on Big 12 Studio, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Barth from Wayne's World. I am Ari Temkin. We are going to be joined momentarily by Kevin Young, the head men's basketball coach at BYU, as the BYU Cougars are a 10-1 with the lone loss coming against UConn in an 86-84 barn burner, James. And, you know, in the last segment, and Let's Get It On, we kind of made the case for could Iowa State be the best team of the Big 12? But I think with the way things have started, you've got a pretty good case for 4 teams right now at the top of this conference, which includes BYU, Iowa State, Arizona, and Houston.
Mm-hmm. And people are sleeping on BYU. They lose Dawson Baker to a season-ending injury, which will challenge their depth. But they have guys that aren't seeing the floor more than 10 or 15 minutes a game that are very capable. Kadeem Boop, my favorite name in the conference, is an athletic big who's a sophomore from the Senegal, was an NBA Academy Africa guy, super athletic, like has an NBA-ready body. He's just raw. Dominique Diamandis, another post player that adds a ton of rebounding and length for them that, again, they don't on paper have the stats as some of these other teams when it comes to depth, but those guys are critical pieces. And Keba Keita down low, and then the guards, like with A.J. DiBonsa and Richie Saunders and Rob Wright, that's a big three that can take you deep into the NCAA tournament. And they're 10-1. They're so much further along than they were this time last year, and they're almost being overlooked because of what Iowa State did at Purdue, because of what Houston did at the end of last year, making the championship game, and their 9-1 start, and beating Auburn and some other high-quality teams in the early part of the season, and then Arizona and all the top 25 teams that they've taken down. So it's like, why are they not in the same conversation or the same chat? Because I see just as much talent on that roster, and I think they're very much under the radar and going to be a major factor come Big 12 play.
All right, let's talk now with Kevin Young, the head men's basketball coach for the 10-1 BYU Cougars, who, aside from that loss to UConn, have beaten Wisconsin, Miami, Dayton, Clemson, amongst many other high-quality opponents. Morning, Coach. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Doing very well, thank you. Appreciate your time. You know, curious, like, what's different? What have you found to be different year 2 here as opposed to year 1?
Just more comfortable for me, just kind of knowing, the college game a little bit better. Obviously the biggest difference for us is just our schedule. Number one, travel. We've been to the East Coast 3 times already. Quality opponent has been extremely high for us. So, that's presented a lot of different challenges in a good way that we've been able to work through. So that's been kind of the biggest differences for us.
Yeah, I mean, does your team even know where your home court is?
Up until I think 5 days ago, we'd only played 2 games in our home arena. Even the games in Utah were neutral site games up in Salt Lake. So, but no, it's good, man. It's a good test for our guys. It's get us out of our comfort zone. But at the same time, we've got a home slate here. 2 more games at the Marriott Center during the Christmas time here, which is nice.
Coach, I go back to that Wisconsin game, and people are talking about, does BYU have the depth that they need to be the team that we think they can be? And I say yes. Like A.J. DiBonsa, he gets his 4th foul early on in the second half against a really good Wisconsin team, and you guys still outscore them in the second half, even when he's on the bench. So what does that say about your team and when a guy like that is out of the lineup and on the bench next to you, that this is still a really good, deep basketball team?
Yeah, no, I was worried about that in that moment. I wasn't sure how the guys were going to respond, but it's been that was a big moment, I think, for our team, just to be able to, like you said, not just kind of maintain, but actually push the lead out against a high quality team. So, we've got good players. Rob Wright has been somebody that's stepped up. I mean, he's a guy that feels like he never gets tired. So I feel comfortable leaving him out there for long stretches. And then we had some bench guys come in and produce. Now obviously we've had some injuries. This is the most season-ending injuries I've ever had in any time I've coached. So that's something that's presented a challenge. But we've had some of the young guys come in and accept bigger roles and step up and make shots, and that's something we're looking at even more as we move forward.
Yeah, you mentioned Rob Wright. The Clemson, the shot at Madison Square Garden against Clemson will live in infamy, certainly. Take us in the huddle. 1.3 seconds left, tie game. Was that the look you wanted?
Well, first of all, we should have had about 2.1 seconds, and I know that sounds silly, but no, but seriously, like when I was in the NBA, that responsibility fell on my plate, particularly when I was with the 76ers, and so in the NBA you can advance the ball with that timeout. So being in that situation, low clock, front court throw-in is one I've studied a million times over. So 2 seconds is a lot of time. 1.3 gets a little dicier. But to answer your question, I mean, we were really looking for a full court play for AJ. They guarded it well. Rob called the timeout. And then on that particular play, that was actually the third option.
Wow.
And so our guys executed it well. I think an unsung hero in that situation was Mihailo Boskovic. I hadn't played him at all in the second half, but I really trust him as a decision maker and as a passer. And he's tall, so I like him as an option as a throw-in guy in terms of the passer. So he came in, read the situation, delivered an on-time, on-target pass to Rob, and then Rob, did the rest, obviously.
Kevin, you said a moment ago that you've lost more guys to season-ending injuries than at any point in your career. How many guys have you lost?
So we've lost 2 for sure, and a third one that's most likely in that same situation. So, tough to see for our guys, and 2 of them were the same position, in Nate Pickens and Dawson Baker. But credit to our coaching staff out on the recruiting trail. Alexei Kostic came in the other night and went 5 of 8 from 3, and that's in that same role that Dawson and Nate would have held. And then the next night, Tyler Russ came in and goes 4 of 4 from 3. So, obviously the consistency is going to have to be there for those guys, but that's what you have a team for. That's what you have depth for. That's what you have player development for.
I'm curious from like an analytical perspective, how many, when you prepare for a season, you certainly have expectations for, this guy can shoot, this guy can't shoot, or, these matchups might work. How much does that change, based on how the season plays out over the course of the season? And is it a constant reevaluation in terms of matchup numbers? Or is it more like, let's just see how these trends play over the course of, a week or a month?
I mean, as it relates to shooting, a lot of that for me is just historical data. Like Tyler Maruss, as an example, is he's always been a high level catch and shoot player. We did quite a bit of studies on, does that translate from the low and mid-major level when guys transfer up? There's really only about less than a 2% drop off.
Wow.
On average in terms of that specific stat, and that was one that we were trying to scratch that itch quite a bit with guys in the portal. So shooting, I think, holds fairly steady. Guys can go on streaks and so forth where it changes it. But any other type of analytic stuff, I got to have, and that's what's tricky, to be honest with you, about college versus the NBA. The sample sizes are so low. NBA, there's so many games, and so what in the NBA could be a 50 to 100 possession sample size, in college, that's half, right? Mm-hmm. And so can you really trust that data? And so we use the analytics, I think, maybe a little bit differently than I was using it when I was in the NBA.
What are some of the analytics or things that you've leaned into defensively? Because you guys are so much further along on that end of the floor for this time of the year than you were a season ago.
Yeah. I really break the game down analytically, just pretty granular. How's our pick and roll defense? What's our post defense? What are our transition numbers? How many transition possessions are we allowing? And then we try to bucket things up and really, in fact, yesterday I was on a call with my analytics guy where, we have this is a saying that Brett Brown, who I worked for with the Sixers, always said, and for me, it's how I use analytics. Never want to be sick and not know it. And so when you break the game down in buckets, like I just mentioned, it allows us to, try, find areas where we could be sick and we can fix it. And if it's, if it's something that's going well, then we'll keep staying on the course that we've been on. So that's kind of how we do it.
Just got to say it in that thick New England accent, you know.
No one make his accent. It's one of one.
It's one of one.
Because it's like a mix between it's a mix between an Aussie accent and a Maine accent, which are very, very, very rare.
Yeah, it's so true. Talking with Kevin Young here, BYU basketball coach. You mentioned the non-conference. Is that a decision you figured throughout this offseason? Do you think it's something that helps you get better prepared for March Madness, for the tournament?
Yeah, in many ways, right? I think, from a standpoint of learning about your team to just figure out what you need to do early in the season and as you prepare for conference play, but then obviously, just the way that the landscape of college basketball is. I mean, you have to put together a resume. I don't know if I fully understand what all went into that and what that fully meant last year. We studied a lot of the teams, even particularly teams in our league that had similar league records to us, but then were on 2 or 3 seed lines higher than we were in the tournament. And a lot of it was because their non-conference play. Many of the games they didn't even win. So it's just being able to put together a challenging resume to make your case, when that time comes for Selection Sunday. But then also, like I said, learning about your team. I absolutely loved the preseason schedules that everyone could do this year with the exhibition games. I wish they would double that. I wish you could do 4 of those instead of 2. I think that helped us. I mean, we played Carolina and Nebraska. They're both like top 15 teams right now. So, we were able to learn a lot in those games, and I would be on the advocate side of trying to do those even more.
Wait, when did you guys play Nebraska?
We played them in an exhibition game in Lincoln.
Oh, okay. Got it. Hey, what is the most underrated part of AJ DeBonce's game?
I think his passing and his IQ. Yeah, I think it's easy to turn on Twitter or YouTube or whatever people look at and watch the highlights of the dunks and this and that and the fadeaways and the NBA shot making. But his feel for the game's elite. I mean, he can really, really pass. I had a good feel for that even when we were recruiting him. When him and I were talking, I remember last year he came to a game in our preseason. I think we were playing Idaho. And Yegor Demon it was one of his nights where he was just carving the other team up with his passing. And AJ's like, man, I love the way that you guys have Yegor having a ball and the passes that he makes, that like I can do stuff like that. And I don't know if a lot of people realize that. I mean, just some of the left hand off dribble passes AJ makes. I mean, even that Clemson game, you look at the dunk he had and the shot making, but the 2 lobs that he threw to Kaba, were as impressive as anything. And so I think he really has a very, very just sound overall offensive package, and I think more and more people are starting to see it.
Richie Saunders is so interesting because I think, on the surface, when people look at your team nationally or even, sometimes when we're caught up in it, you think about, Rob Wright, DeBanza. But, I mean, he's got better numbers already this year than he had last year. Now, we'll let the whole thing play out and see where he stands, but he's averaging 18 points a game. He averaged 16.5 last year. He's averaging 2 steals a game. He was at 1 last year. Where it seems like you had to be more reliant on him last year, it seems like this year you have to be less reliant on him, and yet his shot selection is still he's still shooting the same amount as last year. So just give us a sense here of your expectations of Richie. Did you think he would take maybe a little bit of a step back, having more talent on this roster? And I'm surprised that the numbers are even more up, considering again you've got DeBonza and Rob Wright.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think. No, I'm not surprised. I mean, Richie and AJ and Rob will be the first to tell you. I mean, they rely on him just as much or more than I do, just as far as they trust him. He's been there. He's, the way he works, it's impossible not to just, get in the trench with that guy. So, excuse me. He's been great there. We just, speaking of analytics, I mean, we just did a deep dive with Richie and my analytics guy, just trying to figure out exactly what you just said. It's not just the raw numbers. It's most of his play types, as far as shots in transition, shots in closeouts, on and on, are all slightly higher than they were last year. A bit higher usage on off-ball screens. And so we're actually trying to vary his play types a little bit. His DHOs have been a little down from last year, so we're trying to put him in a few more of those because that's an area he's really good in. But as far as his raw numbers being higher, just his points per game and so forth, like we are more top heavy this year. Last year we were playing 10, even 11 guys sometimes, and so every year is different.
Yeah.
We're relying on more of our our sort of top guys than we were last year, and those guys have been able to produce. I mean, my SID hit me with the stat. I mean, the other night, the three of them all had over 20 points. It was like the first time in 15 years where BYU's had three guys have over 20 points in a game. So, those guys have been rock solid, and which is hard to do when every night the other scouts going to be solely revolving around those three guys, and they've still been able to produce to this point.
Yeah, well said. Kevin Young, head men's basketball coach for the 10-1 BYU Cougars. They play Abilene Christian tomorrow, Eastern Washington before Christmas, and then kick off Big 12 play at K-State on January 3rd. Coach, have a very Merry Christmas, and thanks for your time as always. Be well. Take care. We'll talk to you again soon.
Happy holidays, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, brother.
Kevin.
Kevin Young, 10-1 BYU Cougars, certainly one of the four best teams in the conference to start the season, and they'll start conference play on January 3rd at Kansas State, Arizona State on January 7th, then at Utah on Jan 10th.
Yeah, they're really good. That was a great note about Richie Saunders because I think that the nation is wanting to see more, but the guy's already had an uptick across the board in his production. And then Rob Wright is elite. I mean, he is a pass-first point guard who, when asked to score, can fill it up. He's averaging almost 17 points per game, but he's so efficient offensively that it doesn't feel like when he's on the floor, he's a guy that you look down, he's got 16, 18, 20 points because he's such an elite ball handler and passer and running the show for this BYU offense. And again, I think they're super underrated defensively. And I know the injuries are a little bit of a concern with Baker and with Nate Pickens, but Kostic, the freshman from Austria, he's a shooter. Like, he fills that void at a really high level. He's just a freshman who's a little bit inexperienced. He didn't see the floor a ton in the Euro League, but he's an impact player and is only going to get better as the season goes along.
I mean, and Richie, it's shocking. All of his numbers are up.
Right.
18 points this year, 16.5 points last year. 2 steals. He's averaging 1 more steal per game than he averaged last year. He averaged 1.6 assists last year. He's at 2.1. He averaged 4.5 rebounds per game last year. He's at 5.4. All of his numbers are up.
Yeah. It's like, oh, well, he didn't have a great game against Clemson. He only scored 5 points. Okay, but what about the 29 that he had against Dayton, a game that they really had to have him?
Right.
What about the Wisconsin game when he went off for 5 threes and had 26 and had to do it on both ends of the floor because the guy that A.J. DeBonsa was guarding, Richie Saunders, had to guard because DeBonsa was in foul trouble. Like, he's a well-rounded player that
The dude's averaging 2 steals a game.
and he's shooting 51% from the floor. He is taking less shots than last year and averaging more points.
Wild. James Wesley, Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. You're not going to want to miss a story from James next. This is Big 12 Today. Heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Fafita rolls.
Tyson said, their SID said, Coach loves you guys.
Big 12 Radio in the Christmas spirit, along with James Westling. I am Ari Temkin. Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo.
Do you know what a DHO is? Kevin Young said DHO.
Yeah, of course. Who
You
Who doesn't know what a DHO is?
Okay, who doesn't? Clearly you.
Yeah.
It's a dribble handoff.
Yeah, of course. Everybody
right.
knows that.
It's a very catchy new analytics thing, DHOs. There's OBs, out of bounds plays.
Bro, do you even DHO?
Do you even DHO? Taman, big DHO guy?
Definitely.
Dribble handoff.
Of course.
You didn't even ask me what it was before I said that I knew what it was.
Exactly. So yeah, DHOs, we're very into the analytics and all the catchphrases. So for Big 12 today, I've got a couple that I think we should really implement into the program. Like right now you're yawning, but a lot of times I'll hear a distant sigh while I'm speaking. So I've got the SPS, size per segment. All right. I've got multiple sighs already by 7:30. Okay. We're 30 minutes in. Sometimes some sighs carry more weight than others. So size per segment, SPS.
But how do you weigh the heavier size versus the more subtle size?
I mean, the heavier size would be an SPS through the roof.
Or is it just it all comes out in the wash?
Yeah.
Like your SPS is...
Like there's
It just sounds too much like SPF.
oh,
So I think I'm getting suntan lotion protection or something.
got it. Yeah, but SPS is FIS is my new favorite as well. Fit intent score. Like, did you mean to look like that? Low intent, high confidence. Like, man, he's got a high FIS. That outfit has a purpose.
Yeah,
Today.
your FIS is extremely low today.
Yeah, it's pretty low.
Like if any other context, people would be like, "What are you wearing?"
Well, this shirt has a high CAI, not CIA. CAI.
Yeah, of course.
Color aggression index. Okay, like this color's you probably feel attacked. This color is attacking you. That's CAI off.
But especially
charts.
especially relative to the normal muted colors I see you in.
Right.
You're very muted personality-wise.
Okay, that's a personal attack.
Wow.
Muted palette would be a low CAI. Okay, now you're just being mean.
You're right. Sorry.
And it's leading to a high AST. Who lets the silence win? Okay, that's awkward silence tolerance, AST. That right there, that was an elite silence hold. I've got so many more of these. It's fantastic.
Wait. Can we go back to what was the color? CAI?
CAI, yeah, color aggression index.
Can we have like a chart? And then how are we tracking
Totally.
this stuff?
0 to 100.
Yeah.
Just 0 to 100. This shirt's like a 98.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's pretty up there.
But especially relative to your normal muted colors.
Right. Which is usually just black or gray.
Black or gray.
I mean, I'm bringing it today.
You literally only wear black, white, or gray.
This is my Christmas shirt.
Yes.
All right. But it doesn't impact my CE, which is my confidence elasticity. Okay. Like my confidence.
How elastic is your confidence?
Not elastic. It does not snap. It doesn't snap. So I've got high CE confidence elasticity. Okay. Here for these.
Keep going.
You want more?
Yeah.
All right, the VSR. It's the vibe shift rate.
Oh.
Okay, right now, I would say we've got a pretty high VSR.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, we're final segment of the show. Then you're like, hey, this is good stuff.
This is good stuff.
You've got high VSR. It's how fast your mood changes after a little bit of pushback.
Okay. That, or if there's like maybe some little bit of an uncomfortable silence. What do we call those?
Yeah. The uncomfortable silence?
Or like the
awkward silence index?
Yeah, the ASI.
Yeah, the ASI.
When the ASI gets a little bit too high, then you got to shift
to the VSR, which is the vibe shift rate.
So vibe shifting, you don't want the vibe to shift.
And right now, I've got a high IE, which is interruption efficiency. I've interrupted you 6 times during this segment, but they're interruptions that actually land. So I've got high volume but low IE. Elite interruption timing.
This is great. Keep going.
I think that's it.
That's it?
I think I'm out.
Okay.
I think I'm out. Hey, do you have like a moment in your childhood when
I still can't get over the IE.
interruption efficiency?
That might have been the best one.
Interruption efficiency.
I feel like I'm a very inefficient interrupter.
You never know when he's going to chime in.
And it may or may not land. Very inefficient. if the coach were coaching me, they'd be like, just don't. Just don't. Just
Don't just sit there and be quiet. We need to lean into the awkward silence index, the ASI. But do you have a moment like in your childhood when you got hurt or injured that was like a wake-up call to, okay, mess around and find out, like I can seriously get hurt if I just keep climbing on stuff and acting all willy-nilly with my behavior?
Let me just tell you a quick story that might answer this question.
Okay. I knew you would.
If you look at my forehead, you may see multiple scars.
Okay.
My nose, quick story here. My sisters used to throw balls towards coffee tables that I would then inexplicably dive towards. And just a quick story here. I once was taken to the hospital to get stitches when I was a kid, and then my parents decided not to take me back to the hospital a week later for fear that they would take me away.
Wait, take you away?
Like, Child Protective Services would be like, yeah, they were just in here last week.
Oh,
This child needs to be taken away. So I didn't get stitches a week later because my parents were like, we're not taking him to the hospital.
They're like, he's had too many accidents.
Not accidents. So to answer your question, I have memories of not learning my lesson.
Yeah.
Just a long string of not learning my lesson.
What happened the first time when you bust your face open?
It happened a lot, James. My sisters kept throwing balls towards coffee tables, and
I'm going to dive after them.
I kept diving after them. Yeah. I know that might be hard for you to believe.
Man.
As smart as it may appear I am, in fact, not that smart at all.
Child nuisance, this guy. Well, hopefully that's not what happened to my son, because he had his moment yesterday. He was playing on a playground, sliding down some bars. He fell and like bounced off of other playground equipment on his way down and landed on his face. And yeah, his face is pretty messed up. He got scratched up pretty good. He had to go to the hospital. He doesn't have any serious injuries. So he was hurt and he's in pain because he's battered and bruised, but he's not physically in any harm. He's going to be fine. But I'm really hoping it's his moment, because he does. He climbs on everything. He is like the Tasmanian devil. And I could tell that this was a real wake-up call for him, that like gravity is real, consequences are real. Maybe we shouldn't be climbing on every tree that we see. And I think everybody has one of those childhood like core memories of getting hurt, like really seriously hurt, and having to recover from it. Mine was a couple of studio chairs like this, where I had my arms like extended out on each armrest of the chair. I was swinging back and forth, and I fell and landed face first on like a concrete base and split my chin open. And it's like, yeah, I probably shouldn't do that. Also, that was my last Boy Scouts adventure. Never went back after that. I was like, hey, no, this is too much for me.
Just want to make sure to make a note. Gravity is real.
Gravity is a real thing.
I've also now just realized how much more patience my parents had with me than I had with my kids, because if my kid kept diving into coffee tables and getting stitches, I would lose my freaking mind.
Yes.
That's and I'm not kidding. Like 5 or 6 times.
Yeah. Wait, you did this 5 or 6 times?
Yeah.
Dive into coffee tables.
I'm an idiot. James Westling, Ari Tepkin. Thanks to Taban Turner, our producer. Thanks to Anthony Smith, our producer back at Big 12 Studios. We are back tomorrow, but for now we're out. Peace.